Hello there, everyone. Welcome to Nightmare Narratives. I am your storyteller, and I'm here to guide you tonight. I know many of you use these videos to drift off to sleep, so before we begin, take a moment to like this video and subscribe to our channel. I'm always curious. Where are you watching from and what time is it in your part of the world? Now find your cozy spot and relax. My name is Jackson Caldwell, but everyone calls me Jack. I've been a ranger at Pisgah National Forest for almost 3 years now. Before that, I was an army ranger. Different kind of ranger. Same commitment to duty. At least that's what I tell myself. Radio log, 0600 hours. Base, this is Caldwell. I've reached the designated zone for the wildlife management operation. Over. Copy that, Ranger Caldwell. Proceed as discussed in the briefing. Maintain radio contact every 2 hours. Over. Roger that. Caldwell out. I switch off my radio and look around. The morning fog hangs between the tall pines, making everything look ghostly. Scout, my tracking dog, sniffs the air nervously. Something feels off about this assignment, but orders are orders. Personal log. Recording. Day 1 of special operation. The higher-ups are calling this wildlife management. But I know better. Project Skinwalk isn't about tracking bears or counting deer. They want me to find something else out here, something that changes. The irony isn't lost on me, hunting monsters while being one myself. We all have our demons, I guess. I pull out the silver knife my grandmother gave me. At least that's the story I tell people. The weight of it feels reassuring in my hand. Scout whines at my feet, sensing my unease. It's okay, boy. Just another day in the woods. But it's not. Tommy would have known that right away. My brother always could. Tell when I was lying. Too bad he's not here anymore. Official report says overdose, but I've got my doubts. Tommy started asking questions about my work just before he died. Questions about Project Skinwalk. Radio check. 1,000 hours. Base, this is Caldwell. First checkpoint reached. No unusual activity. Scout is behaving normally. Over. Copy that, Caldwell. Remember, Scout's readings are being monitored. The equipment in his collar is sensitive. Keep him close. Over. Equipment. They told me it was just a GPS tracker. What the hell are they really monitoring out here? I grew up hearing stories from my Cherokee grandmother about shapeshifters in these woods. Creatures that could steal your face, your voice, your memories. I used to think they were just stories to keep kids from wandering off alone. Now I'm not so sure. Personal log. Recording. Found some strange tracks by the creek. Not animal, not exactly human either. Scout won't go near them. I'm following. Protocol and taking samples. But something doesn't add up. The reservation isn't far from here. I wonder if the old stories... The radio crackles to life, startling me. Caldwell, be advised. Team Alpha has missed their check-in. Last known position is half a mile northeast of you. Investigate and report. Out. Team Alpha. No one mentioned another team out here. As I pack up my gear, I notice Scout staring into the woods, hackles raised. He doesn't bark, just stares. What is it, boy? You see something? The forest has gone completely silent. No birds, no insects, nothing. Let's go find Team Alpha, I tell Scout, trying to sound more confident than I feel. As we head northeast, I can't shake the feeling that we're being watched. By what? I don't know. But something in these woods knows we're here, and I think it's been waiting for us. The trees seem to close in as Scout and I push deeper into the forest. My head throbs with each step. These headaches have been getting worse lately, ever since my last therapy session. Personal log. Recording. 3 hours searching for Team Alpha. Found their campsite empty, sleeping bags still warm, coffee still hot in a mug. It's like they just vanished. Scout is acting strange, whining at shadows, refusing to sniff for trails. Something's very wrong here. I sit on a fallen log and rub my temples. The headache is bringing flashes of memory, but they don't feel like my memories. A village, screaming, fire. I shake my head to clear it. The radio in my pack buzzes. Caldwell, report status on Team Alpha, over. I pick up the radio but pause before answering. The voice sounds off, like someone trying too hard to sound normal. This is Caldwell. No sign of personnel, but campsite appears recently abandoned. Request instructions, over. Continue search pattern. Be advised, weather system moving in. Maintain vigilance, out. I stare at the radio. The base operator never talks like that. Maintain vigilance? Who says that? Personal log, recording. Found something weird in my pack. Pills I don't. Remember packing. Label says for dissociative episodes, but the name on the prescription isn't Jackson Caldwell. It says James Patterson. Who the hell is James Patterson? My hands shake as I flip through my wallet. Driver's license, Forest Service ID, all say Jackson Caldwell, but there's a folded piece of paper tucked behind my ID that I've never seen before. A military psych evaluation for James Patterson with my photo attached. Scout whimpers and presses. Against my leg, I scratch behind his ears automatically, my mind racing. What's happening, boy? Am I losing it? I close my eyes, trying to think straight. More flashes, a different uniform, different dog tags, a village in what looks like Vietnam or Laos. People running, gunfire. When I open my eyes, I notice Scout, watching me with an intensity that doesn't seem normal for a dog. His eyes look almost calculating. Radio log, 1500 hours. Base, this is Caldwell. I need information on a James Patterson. Military personnel possibly connected to this. Operation, over. Long silence. Then, Caldwell, maintain mission parameters, avoid deviations. That's an order, out. That's when I notice the journal in Team Alpha's camp. Flipping it open, my blood runs cold. It's filled with observations about me, my movements, my behaviors, my reactions to certain stimuli. The last entry reads, subject continues to believe Caldwell identity, trauma conditioning holding, ready for phase 2 testing. Personal log, recording. I don't know who I am anymore. These memories I have, my Cherokee grandmother teaching me about the forest, my brother Tommy, my time as an army ranger, they don't feel solid anymore. They feel planted, like someone put them in my head. The forest seems to shift around me. For a second, I think I see someone watching from between the trees, someone who looks exactly like me. Scout growls, but not at the woods. He's growling at me. Easy, boy, it's me. But a terrible thought hits me. What if it isn't? What if I'm not who I think I am? I pull out the silver knife, catching my reflection in the blade. For just a split second, I see a different face staring back, the face from my flashes, James Patterson. And that's when I hear it. Multiple voices on my recorder. All of them, mine, talking over each other. But I'm not speaking. My hand trembles as I reach for the radio one more time. Base, this is... I hesitate, not sure what name to use. I need extraction. Something's happening to me. Over. The radio crackles with static, then clears. My own voice answers, we know, James. We've been waiting for you to remember. It's time to come home. The sky darkens faster than it should. I check my watch. Only 4:30 p.m., but it looks like night is already falling. Scout paces around the campsite, refusing to leave my side, but also seeming afraid of me. I pack up quickly, stuffing the journal. In my bag. I need to get somewhere safe before dark, but where is safe? I don't even know what I'm running from or who I am. Come on, Scout, let's move. We head downhill, following a small stream. Water always leads somewhere, my grandmother taught me. Or did she? Was that memory even real? Personal log. Recording. Found something disturbing about a mile from Team Alpha's camp. Deer carcasses, 5 of them, arranged in a perfect circle. The way they're positioned, it reminds me of something terrible I don't want to remember. The pattern triggers another flash. Bodies arranged in a similar circle, but not deer. People, a village, smoke, the sound of my own voice giving orders. I stumble, catching myself against a tree. When I look at my hand, I half expect to see blood, but there's nothing there. Keep it together, I mutter to myself. Just keep moving. The forest feels wrong, too quiet. The birds stopped singing hours ago. Even the insects are silent. It's like the whole forest is holding its breath, waiting. As we round a bend in the stream, I freeze. Ahead of us is a small clearing, and in it a campsite that makes my blood run cold. Blood. So much blood. Splashed across tents, soaking into the ground, but no bodies. It's identical to the scene from my flashes. The village, the arrangement of the tents, even the pattern of the bloodstains. Scout whines backing away. I should run, but I can't move. The smell hits me, sweet and coppery. I know that smell. Radio static. Patterson, confirm extraction, coordinates. The radio in my pack comes to life with broken words. I don't remember turning it on. I force myself to approach the bloody campsite. There are backpacks scattered around, left behind in what must have been a panic. I open one, hands shaking. Inside is an ID card, a military ID. The name reads Sergeant Michael Collins. The face is vaguely familiar. One of the men from my memory flashes. One of the soldiers who was with me in that village. I check another backpack, another ID. Corporal David Perez. Another face from my memories. What is this? I whisper. Scout suddenly growls, looking toward the woods. I follow his gaze, but see nothing. Then I hear it. Soft singing. A Cherokee lullaby, the one my grandmother used to sing. But my grandmother never existed. Personal log recording. My compass isn't working. The needle just spins in circles. My GPS is dead too. It's like something is interfering with the electronics. The singing gets louder, coming from all directions at once. I pull out my flashlight as the darkness deepens unnaturally around us. The beam catches something in the trees, dozens of dead songbirds arranged in a line along branches, their heads all pointing toward me. Scout, stay close, I whisper. The fog rolls in, thick and unnatural. It doesn't move like normal fog. It seems to have purpose, curling around trees, reaching toward us with finger-like tendrils. Through the mist, I see trail markers I didn't notice before. Small stacks of stones, bits of cloth tied to branches. They form a path leading deeper into the forest. Transmission broken. Facility awaiting, subject prepared for processing. The radio crackles again. This time I rip it from my pack and stare at it. I never turned it on. Who are you? I demand. What do you want? No answer, just static. Scout suddenly bolts, racing down the marked path. I call after him, but he doesn't stop. Scout, come back! I have no choice but to follow. The path winds between the trees, the markers becoming more frequent. The fog parts just enough to let me see a few feet ahead. After what feels like hours, but my watch says is only minutes, the trees thin out. Ahead, barely visible through the mist, stands a small concrete building. No windows, a single metal door. It doesn't belong here in the middle of the forest. Scout sits in front of the door, waiting for me, his eyes reflecting the beam of my flashlight with an unnatural glow. As I approach, the door slides open on its own. Light spills out, harsh, fluorescent, man-made, and in the doorway stands a figure. Me, another Jackson Caldwell, or James Patterson, identical in every way, staring back with a smile that doesn't reach his eyes. "Welcome home," he says in my voice. Scout walks to his side without hesitation. I take a step back, hand automatically reaching for the silver knife in my belt. The other me, the thing that looks like me, just keeps smiling. "Don't be afraid," it says. "You're exactly where you need to be." Behind him I catch glimpses of equipment, computer screens, metal tables. This isn't a ranger station or any kind of forest service facility. "Who are you?" I demand, knife now gripped tightly in my hand. The figure shifts, ripples like water, and suddenly it's not me anymore. It's Tommy, my brother. Same crooked smile, same scar above his eyebrow from when we fell out of a tree as kids. "Don't you recognize me, Jack? Or should I call you James?" Then it shifts again. Now an older man in a military uniform stands before me. The name tag reads Patterson. My head explodes with pain. 3 sets of memories fighting for space. Jackson Caldwell, the forest ranger, James Patterson, the soldier, and someone else. Someone watching it all happen. "Stop it," I growl, pressing my free hand against my temple. "We can't stop what's already happened," the thing says, voice changing with each word. Now Tommy's voice, now mine, now someone else's. "You made your choices long ago." Scout, or whatever Scout really is, watches me with those 2 intelligent eyes. His collar blinks with a small red light I never noticed before. Overlapping voices, recording. Subject displays expected response to visual triggers. Identity fragmentation proceeding according to parameters. Prepare for extraction phase. The voices come from everywhere and nowhere. Some sound like mine, some like people I don't know. "What is this? What are you doing to me?" I back away from the door but hit something solid behind me. I spin around to find Tommy standing there. Another Tommy, different from the one in the doorway. "You killed me," this Tommy says flatly. "Not with a needle, with a bullet. When I found out what you did in Laos, what you're still doing." I shake my head. "No, you're not real." "None of this is real," says a third voice, my voice. Another me steps out from between the trees. "And all of it is real. That's the beauty of Project Skinwalk." I'm surrounded now. Multiple versions of myself, of Tommy, of other faces I half recognize from buried memories. They form a circle around me, just like the deer carcasses, just like the villagers in my flashbacks. The thing wearing Tommy's face steps closer. "Look at me, James. Really look." Its eyes catch mine, and I can't look away. They're amber-colored, glowing slightly in the gathering darkness. I feel my thoughts slowing down, my will draining away. "The silver won't help you," it says, nodding at my knife. "That's just another story they put in your head. Like your Cherokee grandmother, like your brother's overdose, like your entire life as Jackson Caldwell." I try to look away from those hypnotic amber eyes, but I can't. My arm feels heavy, the knife slipping from my grasp. What do you want?" I manage to ask. "What we've always wanted," it answers, Tommy's face melting into mine, then into someone else's. "Good soldiers. Perfect assets. Minds that can be overwritten and reprogrammed for any mission." It reaches out, hand passing through my chest like it's made of mist, but I feel it. Cold fingers wrapping around something inside me, something essential. "The guilt was necessary," it continues. "Guilt makes the mind malleable. Your village massacre was the perfect foundation. We built Jackson Caldwell on top of James Patterson's guilt, and now we'll build something new on top of that." Scout, or whatever he is, approaches. His form ripples too, fur giving way to metal components, eyes glowing with the same amber light. "Scout was never a dog," the Tommy thing explains. "He's been monitoring you, recording your responses, helping us understand how to perfect the process." The circle of figures closes in. I try to run, but my legs won't move. Every escape route leads back to the concrete building anyway. There's nowhere to go. Radio chaos, multiple voices. Subject ready for extraction. Neural pattern stable. Begin download sequence. The Tommy thing smiles with too many teeth. Don't worry, it doesn't hurt. It feels good, like finally coming home. It leans in, mouth opening wider than any human mouth should, revealing not teeth, but something like metal connectors glinting in the fading light. Just a little bite, it whispers, just a little taste of who you really are. Scout makes a strange, mechanical whining sound and suddenly lunges, not at me, but at the Tommy thing. Metal teeth clash against metal teeth. System malfunction, comes a computerized voice from Scout's throat. Asset protection protocol engaged. In the confusion, I grab the silver knife from the ground. It hums in my hand, vibrating like it's alive. You said this wouldn't work, I say, finding my voice again. I lied, the Tommy thing hisses, struggling with Scout. That's what we do. The world spins around me as Scout and the Tommy thing fight, metal grinding against metal. The other figures, the other versions of me and people I half remember, now to do flicker like bad TV reception. I grip the silver knife tighter, feeling it pulse with energy. Not magic, technology. The knife isn't silver because of old legends. It's a weapon designed for this exact situation. Scout, I call out. What is this place? What are they doing? Scout's voice comes in broken, mechanical bursts as he struggles with the Tommy thing. Government harvest protocol. They don't feed on guilt. They harvest identities, useful minds. The concrete building's door stands open, spilling harsh light into the forest. Inside, I catch glimpses of more equipment, computer screens showing faces, dozens of them cycling through like a slideshow. Some I recognize from my fragmented memories. How do I stop it? I yell. The knife! Scout's voice breaks up. Neural disruptor, separate consciousness from harvester. I don't fully understand, but I know what I need to do. I lunge forward, driving the knife toward the Tommy thing's neck. It screams, not in pain but in rage, and tries to dodge. The blade catches it in the shoulder instead, sinking deep. Where the knife touches, the creature's form stabilizes, unable to shift anymore. It's stuck halfway between Tommy and something else, something not human. You can't stop this, it hisses. You're already part of the system. Your consciousness has been backed up, copied, ready for deployment. You're an asset now. I feel something warm trickling down my neck. Reaching up, I find a small puncture wound just below my ear. An extraction port, I somehow know. Scout breaks free from the creature and limps to my side. Half his face is torn away, revealing complex machinery underneath. Emergency protocol, he says, voice steadier now. Electromagnetic pulse. Sacred. Fire. Will destroy facility control systems. Release the harvested. How? I ask, keeping the knife pointed at the Tommy thing, which is now backing toward the facility door. My power core, Scout replies. Overload sequence. But I won't survive it, neither will any electronic system within range. The Tommy thing laughs. You'll destroy yourself and your pet robot, but Project Skinwalk will continue. We're everywhere. We've been doing this for decades. I look at Scout, my companion, who was never really a dog, but who still protected me when it mattered. Do it, I tell him. Scout nods, then his eyes glow brighter. A high-pitched whine builds from within him. You have 30 seconds, he says. Get as far from the facility as possible. I run, crashing through the underbrush, not looking back. Behind me, the Tommy thing shrieks commands, and I hear other voices, mechanical and human, in panicked response. The forest blurs around me. The figures that surrounded me earlier are gone, or maybe they were never really there. Just projections, illusions, created by whatever technology the facility uses. I count in my head, 20 seconds, 15. A blast of light comes from behind me, so bright it turns night to day for an instant. Then a wave of force knocks me forward, face first into the dirt. In the silence that follows, I hear voices, dozens of them whispering all around me, not threatening but confused, lost, released. I roll onto my back, looking up at the sky now visible through the trees. The unnatural. Fog is gone, stars shine overhead. Personal log, final recording. I don't know who I am. Parts of me are Jackson Caldwell, parts are James Patterson, and parts might be others who were harvested before me. Their voices are in my head now, quieter but present. Scout is gone. The facility is a smoking ruin. I found bodies. Inside, real ones, human technicians running the project. And I found files. So many files, going back decades. Project Skinwalk wasn't hunting monsters. It was creating them. Taking soldiers with trauma, with guilt, with broken minds, and rebuilding them into perfect assets. Blank slates that could be written on over and over. I'm burning everything, the files, the bodies, the equipment that survived the EMP. Scout called it the sacred fire. It feels right. I don't know if I'm free, I don't know if the real me, whoever that is, survived, but I know what I have to do next. The flames rise higher as I feed the last of the files into the fire. In my pocket, I find one last thing, an ID card for another forest ranger in another national park. The face is mine, but the name is new. I don't know if I'm running from what happened or if I'm following programming buried so deep I can't feel it anymore. But I know I'll be watching for signs of Project Skinwalk, for other rangers with silver knives and loyal dogs, for missing hikers and strange fog. As dawn breaks, I shoulder my pack and head downhill toward the road where I left my truck. It feels like someone is walking beside me, but when I turn to look, there's no one there. Just the whisper of voices, on the wind, and the certainty that something is still out there, wearing familiar faces, waiting to bring its assets home. Classified recording of 600 hours 1 week later. Base, this is Ranger Patterson. I've reached the designated zone for wildlife management. Over. Copy that, Ranger Patterson. Proceed as discussed in the briefing. Maintain radio contact. Every 2 hours. Over. Roger that. Patterson out. The ranger switches off his radio and surveys the misty forest. Beside him, a German shepherd sits alert, a new collar blinking with a small red light. Come on, Scout, the ranger says with a smile that doesn't reach his eyes. Let's go to work. My name is William Thompson, but everyone around these parts just calls me Bill. I've been a ranger in Daniel Boone National Forest for almost 3 years now. Perfect job for a man with secrets, if you ask me. Miles of dense Kentucky forest. To hide in, just me and my thoughts most days. And my dog Blue, of course. This morning started like most others. Crisp autumn air, leaves turning those fiery colors that tourists drive hours to see. I was just finishing my coffee on the cabin porch when the radio crackled. Thompson, you there? Over. It was Marcy from dispatch. I took my sweet time answering. Go ahead, dispatch. Just got word that federal boys are coming down next week. Some kind of audit. Thought you'd want to know. My stomach dropped. Feds poking around was the last thing I needed. Thanks for the heads up, I said, keeping my voice steady. Anything else I should know? There was a pause. Nothing official. Good. Let's keep it that way. The threat in my voice was subtle, but clear. Marcy knew some things about my side businesses, nothing she could prove, but enough to make her nervous. I clipped the radio back to my belt and whistled for Blue. That dog came bounding over, tail wagging like I was his whole world. Beautiful Walker hound with those sad eyes. Sometimes when I looked at him, I'd remember the Jones boy crying as I dragged Blue away, claiming the dog was evidence in a poaching case I'd manufactured. The boy went to juvenile detention. Blue got a new master. Come on, boy. We've got rounds to make. My first stop was the old Miller place, where 3 generations of moonshiners had been cooking up the best white lightning in the county. These days, they paid me to look the other way. I'd been meaning to squeeze them for a little more. Times were getting tight, and that federal audit had me worried. But when we reached the clearing where there still should have been, all I found was destruction. Equipment smashed, half-finished bottles shattered. Well, I'll be damned, I muttered, crouching down to examine the mess. This wasn't random vandalism. This was the work of the Hatfield crew from over the ridge. They'd been trying to move in on Miller territory for months. As I stood up, I noticed the temperature had dropped suddenly. The hair on the back of my neck stood up. Something felt wrong. My mind jumped to the evidence cache, a small waterproof box buried near the old oak where the county line bent. If someone had found that, no, impossible. Only I knew about that spot. My radio started acting up, bursts of static cutting through the usual silence. I'd been jamming certain frequencies to keep ranger communications spotty in my area. Easier to explain missing check-ins when the equipment was unreliable. Blue started growling, low in his throat. Up ahead, a family of raccoons scurried across our path, and for a second I saw the faces of the Davidson kids. 3 little ones left without a father after I planted evidence that sent him away for a crime he didn't commit. A heavy fog was rolling in, unusual for this time of day. Perfect cover, though. Last month, I'd used a fog just like this one to move the body of a hiker who'd seen too much. Caught me collecting taxes from a hunting party that didn't have proper permits. I noticed how quiet the forest had gotten. No birdsong, no insects, buzzing. Even the wind seemed to have died down. The animals around here had learned to make themselves scarce when I was around. Smart creatures. They knew a predator when they saw one. "Come on, Blue," I said, suddenly eager to finish my rounds and get back to the cabin. "We've got money to collect and evidence to hide before those feds show up." But as Blue looked up at me, I could have sworn I saw something in his eyes. Not the usual blind loyalty, but something else. Something that made me wonder if even my stolen dog was starting to see me for what I really was. As I walked deeper into the forest, old memories bubbled up like poison from a wound. That mine collapse 3 years ago wasn't just bad luck like everyone thought. I'd set those charges myself, timed perfectly to look like a support beam failure. The company payroll, nearly $50,000, was being transported through the lower tunnel that day. In all the chaos of the rescue, nobody noticed me slipping away with the cash. "That money set us up nice, didn't it, Blue?" I said, patting the dog's head. Blue whined softly, almost like he understood. Maybe he did. Animals can sense things about people that other humans miss. I stopped to take a drink from my canteen and spotted my father's old miner's lamp hanging from my belt. I still used it sometimes, not just for light. 3 quick flashes followed by a long one was my signal to the boys, who helped me move illegal goods through the forest at night. The same lamp my father had carried into that mine every day until Black Lung took him. My hand went to the knife. On my belt, Grandpa's hunting knife with the bone handle. Most folks thought I kept it for skinning game or cutting rope. They didn't know it was the same knife I'd used on that federal agent who'd come asking too many questions about the mine disaster. He'd gotten too close to figuring out that the collapse wasn't natural, that someone had set those charges deliberately. The memory of Betty Lou came next, hitting me like a punch to the gut. My wife had been 5 months pregnant when she lost our baby. The doctors called it stress-related, but I knew better. She'd found my bloody clothes the night I came home from dealing with that federal agent. She never said a word, but the look in her eyes told me she knew. The miscarriage happened 3 days later. She left me the following week. Blue stopped suddenly, ears perked up. There was something in the bushes ahead, probably just a deer, but I put my hand on my gun anyway. Out here you never know. Cherokee taught me to read these woods, I told Blue as we continued walking. At least that's what I tell people. Truth is, I didn't have a drop of Cherokee blood in me, though I claimed it whenever useful. It helped me get on the good side of the tribal elders whose land bordered parts of the forest. Land that happened to contain some valuable artifacts I'd been quietly selling to collectors. I checked my watch. Almost noon. I knew these mountains like the back of my hand. Every trail, every cave, every hidden spot for 20 miles around, including the locations of 13 unmarked graves where I'd buried people who crossed me over the years. Some were competitors in my protection rackets. Others were witnesses who threatened to talk. They call it mountain pride, I said to Blue. That's what folks around here think drives me. But it's just business, boy. Nothing personal. The nightmares still came, though, especially about the mine. 12 men died that day, crushed or suffocated in the dark. Their faces appeared in my dreams, covered in coal dust, eyes wide and accusing. I'd tell myself it wasn't my fault. They were just in the wrong place at the wrong time. Collateral damage. A crow cawed overhead, making me jump. I was getting jumpy. The federal audit had me on edge. Need to check the South Ridge cache, I muttered to Blue. Make sure everything's still hidden right. I'd learned some things from the old folks in these hills, bits of folk magic they claimed would protect a person from harm. I wasn't superstitious, not really, but I'd taken to leaving small offerings at certain places in the forest. Coins at crossroads, whiskey poured on particular stones, just in case. Some nights, when the wind howled just right through the hollow, I could almost believe I'd made actual deals with whatever dark forces might be out there. Deals to keep the law off my back. But lately, I'd been feeling like something was watching me, following me. Like the forest itself had eyes and was judging every move I made. Come on, Blue, I said, picking up my pace. Let's finish our rounds and get back to the cabin before dark. The sun was already starting to dip behind the ridgeline, and for the first time in years, I felt afraid of what might be waiting in these woods after nightfall. The first thing I noticed was the paw prints. Massive things, bigger than any wolf or mountain lion I'd ever seen. They appeared in the mud near Benson Creek, where I'd been heading to check on another moonshine operation. What do you make of these, Blue? I asked, crouching down. Blue wouldn't go near the prints. He stood back, hackles raised, whining like I'd never heard before. Just a big animal, I said, trying to convince myself. Nothing to worry about. But something felt wrong. The forest had gone completely silent again. No birds, no squirrels, not even insects buzzing. It was like everything living had cleared out, leaving just me, Blue, and whatever had made those prints. I stood up and felt a chill that had nothing to do with the weather. In all my years in these mountains, I'd never felt so unwelcome. Like the forest itself was holding its breath, waiting for something to happen. Let's keep moving, I said to Blue. We headed toward the old hunting camp where the Jenkins brothers set up during deer season. They paid me good money to ignore the fact that they hunted out of season and over their limit. But as we approached the clearing, I saw the camp had been destroyed. Tents ripped to shreds, supplies scattered. Everywhere. What the hell happened here, I muttered. It looked like a bear attack, except bears don't typically tear through metal cooking gear or bend hunting rifles like they were made of wire. The Jenkins brothers were nowhere to be seen. That's when I caught the smell, a strange mix of animal musk and something metallic, like blood but different somehow, wilder. Blue started barking at something in the trees. I spun around, hand on my gun, but saw nothing, just shadows and leaves rustling in the wind. As I turned back to the destroyed camp, my compass started acting strange. The needle spun wildly before pointing steadily in one direction, northeast, toward the old abandoned mine where I'd hidden evidence from the federal agent killing. The same mine where I'd buried 3 witnesses to the crime. From somewhere deep in the forest came a howl, then another and another. It sounded like a pack of wolves, but wolves had been gone from these parts for decades. Blue pressed against my leg, trembling. "It's just coyotes," I said, not believing it myself. "They sound bigger when they howl together." I decided to head back to my cabin. Whatever had happened here, I didn't want to be around when it came back. But as I turned to leave, I noticed something strange about the ruined campsite. The destruction wasn't random. The torn tents, the scattered supplies, they were arranged in a pattern, almost like some kind of message. On the way back, we passed Old Man Miller's farm. His cattle had been killed, 5 of them laid out in a circle, their bodies pointing inward like the spokes of a wheel. Miller wasn't around, which was strange. He'd normally be raising hell about losing livestock. The mist was rolling in again, thick and unnatural. As it swirled around my legs, I could have sworn I saw faces forming in the vapor, faces I recognized. The federal agent, the witnesses from the mine, others I'd removed over the years. Their misty forms reached out toward me before dissolving back into the fog. "Just tricks of the light," I told myself, walking faster. Blue started pulling at his leash, trying to lead me away from our usual path home. Instead, he kept tugging toward a trail I rarely used, one that led to a network of caves where I'd stashed boxes of evidence I'd stolen from the ranger station. Things that could put me away for life if anyone found them. "No, Blue. This way," I commanded, yanking his leash. But even as I pulled him back on course, I noticed strange markings on the trees. Claw marks, fresh and deep, scoring the bark in patterns that almost looked like writing. I'd never been a superstitious man, but right then I could almost believe the forest was trying to tell me something. The howling came again, closer this time. It didn't sound like any animal I'd ever heard. There was something almost human in those cries, something intelligent and hungry. "We need to get back," I said, breaking into a jog. "Now, Blue!" As we hurried through the darkening forest, I couldn't shake the feeling that we were being herded, that whatever was out there wasn't just hunting us, it was driving us exactly where it wanted us to go. Night was falling fast, too fast. I should have had at least another hour of daylight, but darkness seemed to be rushing in like floodwater. My flashlight beam cut weakly through the growing shadows as Blue and I hurried along the trail. We were about a mile from my cabin when Blue suddenly stopped dead in his tracks. His ears perked up and a low growl rumbled in his chest. "What is it, boy?" I whispered, drawing my gun. That's when I saw it. Standing in the middle of the path ahead was the biggest wolf I'd ever seen. But it wasn't just a wolf. It stood on its hind legs, its body a strange mix of man and beast. Its fur glowed faintly in the darkness, like it was lit from within. I raised my gun with shaking hands. "Stay back!" I shouted, trying to sound brave. The creature tilted its head, studying me, and that's when I noticed its eyes. They were human eyes, familiar eyes. "Dad?" The word slipped out before I could stop it. The creature's fur rippled with moving images, like pictures projected onto smoke. I saw the mine collapse. I saw myself setting the charges. I saw the men who died, their faces twisted in fear as the tunnels came down around them. "No," I whispered. "That's not possible." Blue's leash slipped from my hand. Instead of running away, he walked slowly toward the wolf creature, tail low, but wagging slightly. "Blue, get back here," I hissed. The dog ignored me. When he reached the creature, it lowered its massive head and nuzzled him gently. Blue whimpered once, then sat at the creature's side, looking back at me with what almost seemed like pity. More howls echoed through the trees. Shapes moved in the darkness around us. More wolf creatures, forming a circle. I was trapped. "What do you want?" I asked, my voice cracking. The lead creature, the one with my father's eyes, let out a sound that was halfway between a growl and words. It took me a moment to realize it was speaking. "Confess," it said, the word gurgling through a throat not made for human speech. "I don't know what you're talking about," I lied. The creature's fur flashed with more images. the federal agent's face as my knife slid into him. The terrified eyes of witnesses as I silenced them forever. The Jones boy crying as I took his dog away on false charges. "Confess," the creature said again, louder this time. I fired my gun. The bullet hit the creature square in the chest, but it didn't even flinch. It looked down at the wound, then back at me. The hole closed up before my eyes. I turned to run, but the circle of wolf creatures closed in. One of them grabbed my arms from behind, its claws digging into my shoulders. I screamed as it pulled, dislocating both my arms with a sickening pop. The pain brought me to my knees. Through tears, I looked up to see the creatures had herded me to a rocky clearing I knew well. It was a natural formation that looked almost like a courtroom, a raised rock like a judge's bench, flat stones like jury boxes. This was where I'd brought the federal agent before finishing him off. "You can't do this," I gasped through the pain. "You're not real." The lead creature approached, its glowing fur now showing scenes from my own memories. All my crimes, all my lies, all my corruption laid bare. "William Thompson," it growled in that horrible half-human voice, "the forest finds you guilty." Blue walked up to me, no longer cowering or afraid. For the first time, I saw hatred in my dog's eyes. He bared his teeth and growled, not at the wolf creatures, but at me. "Blue," I whispered. The dog lunged forward and bit my hand, the same hand I'd used to beat him when he didn't obey quickly enough. The same hand that had snatched him away from the boy who had loved him. I tried to reach for my knife with my good hand, but the moment I touched the handle, it turned red hot. I yelped and pulled away, my palm blistered and smoking. "Confess," the lead creature said again, leaning close. Its breath smelled of earth and blood. "Confess, and it will end." "What do you want me to say?" I cried. "Everything," it growled. One of the creatures brought forward a can of kerosene, the same one I kept in my cabin for my heater. It poured. The liquid around me in a circle, then struck a match. As flames leaped up around me, I broke. The pain, the fear, the impossibility of what was happening. It was too much. "I did it," I screamed. "I set the charges in the mine. I killed those men for the money. I killed the federal agent who came looking. I buried the witnesses. I've been taking bribes and framing innocent people for years." The words poured out of me like poison from a lanced wound. Every crime, every lie, every corrupt act I'd ever committed. As I confessed, the lead creature's glowing fur dimmed. Its form seemed to waver, becoming less solid. When I finally ran out of words, slumping exhausted to the ground, the flames died down. The lead creature, the one with my father's eyes, collapsed to the forest floor. As I watched, it transformed, fur receding to reveal the withered body of an old man I didn't recognize. Blue walked over to the body and laid down beside it, his eyes closing. A shudder ran through my dog's body, and then he was still. "Blue!" I called weakly. But Blue didn't move again. He was gone, his spirit, finally free from the years of abuse and the unnatural bond that had tied him to me. The remaining wolf creatures surrounded me. One of them pushed a bundle of herbs into my hands. "Burn," it growled. "Burn it all." I understood. They wanted me to destroy the evidence of my crimes in a ritual of purification. With my arms hanging useless at my sides, I crawled to my feet and staggered toward the direction of my hidden evidence cache. The wolf creatures followed at a distance, watching as I gathered my bloody trophies, my stolen money, my falsified reports, and made a pile. Using the herbs they'd given me, I set it all ablaze. As the flames consumed the evidence of my corruption, the wolf creatures retreated into the darkness, their eyes glowing like embers among the trees. But even as they left, I knew I wasn't free. Something had changed inside me, something fundamental and terrifying. 3 weeks later, I walked down Main Street in town, nodding to folks who tipped their hats to me. My ranger uniform was pressed, And clean, my badge polished to a shine. My arms had healed surprisingly fast after that night in the forest. Sometimes I wondered if it had all been a nightmare brought on by guilt and fear, but deep down, I knew better. "Morning, Ranger Thompson," called Mrs. Davis from the post office steps. "Beautiful day, isn't it?" "Sure is, ma'am," I replied with a smile that felt strange on my face. "Just perfect." The federal audit had been cancelled. When the investigators arrived, they found all my paperwork in perfect order. Records that I knew had been burned that night in the forest had somehow reappeared, scrubbed clean of any evidence of my corruption. The agents left after 2 days, apologizing for the inconvenience. I passed the local diner where Sheriff Talbot sat at his usual table by the window. He waved me over. "Bill, join me for coffee." I slid into the booth across from him, trying to ignore the strange hunger that gnawed at my insides, a hunger that had nothing to do with food. "Heard you've been cleaning up the forest," Talbot said, sipping his coffee. "Moonshine operations? Drying up, poachers clearing out. Even those Jenkins boys have gone straight from what I hear." "Just doing my job," I said. "Well, keep it up. By the way, have you heard about the disappearances?" I kept my face neutral. "Disappearances? 3 hikers in the last week. College kids from the university. Rangers from the North District found their campsite torn to pieces, but no bodies. Wild animal, they're saying." "Probably," I agreed. "These woods can be dangerous if you don't know what you're doing." On my way back to my cabin, I stopped at the local newspaper office to pick up a copy of the weekly edition. The headline caught my eye. "Reformed Ranger Saves Community from Federal Corruption Investigation." The article praised my tireless efforts to clean up the national forest and mentioned how I'd cooperated fully with federal authorities, leading them to conclude that previous complaints about corruption had been unfounded. I folded the paper and continued walking, past the sheriff's office, past the general store, past all the ordinary people living their ordinary lives. None of them knew what really happened in the forest that night. None of them knew what I had become. Back in my cabin, I stood before the small mirror in my bathroom. My reflection looked normal enough. Same weathered face, same tired eyes. But when I concentrated, focusing on the hunger inside me, my eyes changed. They glowed yellow-green in the dim light, pupils elongating into animal slits. I understood now. The old Alpha hadn't died to free me from my crimes. He had died to pass his power to me. By confessing, by facing my guilt, I had proven myself worthy of becoming the new enforcer of forest law. The old Alpha had been waiting for a replacement, someone who understood both human corruption and animal justice. That night, I stepped out onto my porch and howled. From deep in the forest came answering cries. My pack, my new family. Together, we would judge the guilty. Together, we would bring a harsher, more primitive justice to these mountains. I pulled out my ranger radio and tuned it to a frequency I'd never used before. "This is Thompson," I said quietly. "The pack has a new leader." A voice crackled back, one I'd never heard before. "Understood. Status report. 3 corrupt officials removed. Send more. We're always hungry." I set the radio down and walked into the trees. The transformation was getting easier now. Bones cracking and reshaping, fur sprouting from my skin, senses sharpening until I could hear a mouse's heartbeat 100 yards away. As my pack gathered around me, I realized the true horror of what had happened. I hadn't been punished for my crimes. I'd been rewarded, given power beyond anything I'd ever imagined. And now I was using that power to create my own twisted version of justice. The corruption I enforced now was far worse than anything I'd done before. But who could stop me? Who would even believe what was happening in these dark woods? I raised my muzzle to the moon and howled again, my pack joining in a chorus that sent shivers through the night. The sound carried a promise and a warning. In these mountains, the pack law ruled, and I was the pack law now. Something moved in the underbrush, a deer, frozen in terror. The hunger rose in me, and I gave my pack the signal to move in. We had feasted on corrupt officials, but tonight, simpler prey would do. Tomorrow, I'd put on my uniform again. I'd smile at the townspeople and listen to their problems. I'd note down which ones were breaking the law, which ones were hurting others, which ones deserved to face the pack's justice. After all, every forest needs a predator to keep the balance, and these mountains had found theirs in me. My name is Elena Rodriguez Martinez. I'm 32 years old, and I work as a park ranger at Mojave National Preserve in California. Before this, I was an Air Force medic. That feels like a lifetime ago now. This morning started like any other. I woke up in my ranger cabin, had my coffee, and got ready for my patrol. The temperature was exactly 72 degrees at 8 gaze a.m., perfect desert weather. The sky was clear blue, not a cloud in sight. My German shepherd Cisco was excited as always, tail wagging as I grabbed his leash. "Ready for patrol, buddy?" I asked, and he barked once. Smart dog. I checked my equipment, radio, first aid kit, water bottles, and my service pistol. Standard stuff. My sister Maria's medal hung around my neck, a small silver charm she gave me before I joined the Air Force. I never take it off. At 8:15, I did my radio check. "Base, this is Ranger Rodriguez Martinez, checking in for morning patrol, over." "Copy that, Elena. All systems normal. Weather forecast shows clear skies all day. Keep an eye out for those cattle deaths, the ranchers." "Reported yesterday, over." "Will do. Rodriguez Martinez out." I drove my Jeep along the dirt roads, Cisco sitting alert in the passenger seat. The Joshua trees stood like strange sentinels across the landscape. Everything felt peaceful, but something in my gut didn't feel right. 6 cattle found dead in the last week, all drained of blood, according to the reports. At exactly 9:23 a.m., I remember checking my watch, I found the first carcass. It was a young bull lying on its side. No signs of struggle. The sand around it was undisturbed, as if the animal had just decided to lie down and die. But the wounds, 3 perfect. Triangular punctures in its neck. No animal I know makes wounds like that. I took samples and photos, trying to ignore how cold my hands felt, despite the rising desert heat. Cisco wouldn't go near the carcass. He stood back, hackles raised, whining softly. "It's okay, boy," I said, but even I didn't believe it. By midday, I'd found 2 more dead cattle, all with the same strange wounds. I radioed it in, but there was more static than usual on the line. The sun was directly overhead, casting no shadows. The desert seemed too quiet, no birds, no insects, nothing. As the afternoon wore on, the sky turned a strange amber color. Not the normal sunset orange, but something sickly. That's when I saw it, a shape moving between the Joshua trees, too big to be a coyote, too fast to be a person. Cisco growled, then barked frantically. I followed, gun drawn. The creature moved like nothing I'd ever seen, almost like it was flickering in and out of existence. I caught glimpses, leathery skin, long limbs, a face that didn't make sense. To my eyes, at 6:47 p.m., I cornered it in a small canyon. I remember raising my gun, and then the creature turned. Its skin split open, releasing something that looked like acid. It hit my arm, burning through my uniform instantly. The pain was unbelievable. I fell to my knees, screaming as the acid ate through skin, muscle, bone. The last thing I saw was Cisco running toward me, and then darkness, and then I woke up. It was 8 a.m. The temperature was exactly 72 degrees. My arm was fine, and somehow I knew it was the same day all over again. I sat up in bed, heart pounding. My arm, the one that had been melted to the bone, was completely fine. I looked at my watch, 8 a.m. exactly, temperature reading 72 degrees. just like yesterday, except it wasn't yesterday anymore. It was today again. This is impossible, I whispered to myself. Cisco wagged his tail by the door, exactly like before. My coffee mug sat in the same spot. Everything was the same. I tried to stay calm. Maybe it was just a really bad dream, but it had felt so real. The pain, the creature, everything. I decided to take a different route today. If this was really happening again, maybe I could change things. I would avoid the spot where I found the first dead animal. At 8:15, my radio crackled. Base to Ranger Rodriguez Martinez, checking in for your morning patrol. I froze. Those were the exact same words as before. I hadn't even called in yet. Hello, Elena? Radio check, over. My hands shook as I pressed the button. This is Rodriguez Martinez. I read you. All systems normal. Weather forecast shows. Clear skies all day. Keep an eye out for those cattle deaths the ranchers reported yesterday. Word for word. Exactly the same. I took a completely different path that morning, heading west instead of east. I drove faster than normal, Cisco watching me with concerned eyes. It's okay, boy. We're just trying something different today. At 9:22, I stopped the Jeep and checked my watch, holding my breath. 1 minute passed. Then at exactly 9:23, I looked up and there it was, the same dead bull with the same triangular wounds. Despite taking a completely different route, I had somehow ended up at the exact same spot. My stomach dropped. This wasn't possible. Something else strange happened. As I knelt by the animal, Cisco suddenly sat at attention. Stay, I said. But before the word left my mouth, Cisco had already sat down, as if he'd heard the command before I gave it. I tried the radio again. Base, this is Rodriguez Martinez. I found another dead animal, same as the others. Through the static came the reply, copy that. Continue patrol and report any other findings. I looked up at the sky. Yesterday, or today's first version, it had been clear blue. Now there were dark clouds gathering, yet the radio had reported the same clear skies forecast. As the day went on, I tried everything different. I drove in different directions. I stayed in one place. I even tried returning to base. But somehow, the same events kept happening, just in different ways. I always found the dead animals. The radio always reported the same things despite what was really happening, and I was starting to remember what would happen next. I knew exactly where the creature would appear before it did. By late afternoon, my hands wouldn't stop shaking. I knew what was coming at 6:47 p.m. I tried to prepare. I wore extra layers of clothing. I brought my heavy-duty gloves from the Jeep. This time, when I saw the creature, I didn't chase it. I ran the other way, but somehow I still ended up in that small canyon. The creature still turned. The acid still came. This time, it burned through my protective gloves, then my skin, then deeper. As I fell into darkness again, one thought filled my mind. I was trapped in some kind of loop, and I had no idea how to escape. I woke up again, 8:00 a.m., 72 degrees. Same bed, same everything. This time, I didn't waste any seconds. I grabbed my logbook and started writing everything down. The time loop, the creature, every detail I could. Remember, if I was going to be stuck repeating this day, I needed to understand what was happening. Third time through this day, I wrote, my hand shaking slightly. Need to find a way to break the cycle. I decided to skip the radio check. Instead, I packed extra supplies, more water, more first aid materials, my heavy flashlight that could double as a weapon. Cisco watched me with those knowing eyes, as if he understood more than a dog should. We're going to figure this out, boy, I said, scratching behind his ears. As I flipped through my logbook to review what I'd written, something strange caught my eye. Some of my notes were disappearing, the ink fading right off the page. Other notes I didn't remember writing appeared in the margins. One of them simply said Loop 3 in handwriting that looked like mine, but messier. My heart skipped. Had I written that in a previous loop and forgotten? Or was something else happening? I touched the medal around my neck, Maria's gift. It felt unusually warm against my skin, almost hot to the touch. When I pulled it out from under my shirt, the silver seemed to shimmer in a way I'd never seen before. Outside, the desert looked normal, but something felt off. The shadows seemed too sharp, the colors too vivid. I checked my GPS unit before heading out, and what I saw made my blood run cold. Instead of showing normal coordinates, the screen displayed strange, shifting numbers. 4 sets instead of the usual 2. The 4th number kept changing rapidly, like it was counting something. By noon, I had a plan. I would avoid the canyon completely. I would stay in open spaces where I could see the creature coming. I had written down its patterns from the previous loops. I knew where it would appear, except it didn't appear there. It showed up behind me in a spot I was sure was safe. It was like it knew what I was planning. "How is this possible?" I whispered, backing away slowly. Cisco growled, positioning himself between me and the creature. The creature tilted its head, almost like it was curious. For a brief moment, I felt like it was studying me the same way I was studying it. I ran. Not toward the canyon this time, but back toward my jeep. I had to break the pattern. As I ran, my GPS unit beeped frantically. The 4th coordinate number was changing faster now. The metal against my chest grew hotter. When I reached a ridge I didn't recognize, I stopped to catch my breath. The landscape ahead was different. Rock formations I'd never seen before, despite patrolling this area for 2 years. And then I saw it, half buried in the sand, bleached white by the sun. A skeleton, human, wearing tattered remains of a ranger uniform. With shaking hands, I brushed away the sand from the name tag. Rodriguez Martinez. My skeleton, my uniform, weathered by decades of desert sun and wind. But that was impossible. I was standing right here, alive and breathing. I heard the creature approaching behind me. I didn't need to check my watch to know it was 6:47 p.m. As darkness took me again, a terrible thought formed. What if I wasn't just repeating one day? What if I was caught in something much bigger, much worse? What if time itself was broken here? I've lost count of how many times I've woken up at 8 a.m. to the same 72-degree morning. My logbook says this is loop 15, though I don't fully trust it anymore. Pages appear and disappear. Sometimes I find notes I don't remember writing. This morning felt different. The air had a strange smell, like ozone after lightning strikes. Cisco wouldn't eat his food. He just sat by the door, whining softly. "I know, boy," I said. "Something's changing. I've stopped following the normal patrol routes entirely. I've mapped out where the creature appears each loop, trying to find patterns. Sometimes I avoid it completely. Sometimes I try to confront it. The result is always the same. I die at 6:47 p.m. and wake up again at 8 a.m. But today I decided to do something different. Instead of running from the creature or hunting it, I would try to communicate with it. I packed only water and my notebook. No weapons. Maria's medal hung hot around my neck. It seemed to get warmer with each loop, like it was responding to something. By midday, I sat in an open area where I'd seen the creature before. I waited. The desert was quiet, except for the soft wind moving through the Joshua trees. At exactly 3:33 p.m., I checked my watch. The air in front of me rippled like heat waves on asphalt. The creature appeared, but not like before. This time it didn't try to hide or run. It stood there, watching me. Up close, it looked less like an animal and more like something else. Its skin shifted colors, depending on how I looked at it. Its shape wasn't fixed. Parts of it seemed to blur at the edges. "What are you?" I asked, surprised at how steady my voice sounded. The creature made no sound, but suddenly words formed. In my mind, like someone whispering directly into my thoughts. "I am hunger. I am time." A chill ran down my spine. Why am I stuck in this loop? The creature moved closer. Cisco growled but stayed by my side. Not loop, feeding cycle. Images flashed in my head, painful, confusing images of timelines, branching like rivers of possibilities folding in on themselves. I saw myself dying in countless ways, living in countless others. "Your eating time?" I asked, the words sounding crazy even as I said them. "Consuming potential. Each cycle, one future dies, feeds me." I tried to understand. "You're trapping me in this day to eat possible futures." The creature's form rippled. "Yes, each day you live differently creates energy. Each death feeds me across realities." My head pounded as I tried to grasp what it was saying. How many times have we done this? 15 in your perception, thousands in reality. I looked around at the desert, seeing it differently now. The strange rock formations, the way light bent unnaturally around certain areas. This place isn't real, is it? Not completely. Hunting ground, bubble outside normal time-space. The metal around my neck burned so hot I had to pull it away from my skin. The creature's eyes, if you could call them eyes, followed the movement. "Anchor," it said. "Link to real time. Weakening." I clutched the metal tightly. How do I break the cycle? How do I get out? The creature moved closer. Its form seemed to expand, showing me glimpses of what it truly was. Something vast and impossible, something my mind couldn't properly see. No escape. Attempt only feeds me faster. More potential consumed. As the sun began to set, I felt the familiar dread. 6:47 p.m. was coming, but now I understood what was happening. Each death wasn't just death, it was the end of one possible timeline, consumed by this thing. "What are you really?" I asked as darkness began to edge my vision. The creature's form expanded until it filled my entire field of view. What I saw wasn't something from Earth. It existed in dimensions I couldn't comprehend. Future, past, hunger, time. As 6:47 p.m. arrived and the familiar burning began, I had one last terrible thought. I wasn't just trapped in a time loop. I was trapped in a cosmic feeding cycle, and my every attempt to escape only made the creature stronger. Loop 67. At least that's what my logbook says, though I'm starting to question even that. How long have I been trapped here? Months? Years? Time has no meaning anymore. I woke up at 8 a.m., 72 degrees as always, but something was wrong. The photo of my sister Maria on my nightstand looked different. Her hair was shorter. The background wasn't the beach I remembered. It was some mountain landscape I didn't recognize. I picked up the photo, hands trembling. "This isn't right," I whispered. In my memories, Maria had long dark hair and always wore her silver medal. The same one now hanging around my neck. But when I tried to recall her face, it kept shifting. Sometimes she had a scar over her left eyebrow. Sometimes her eyes were brown instead of green. "Maria died in a car accident," I said aloud, trying to anchor myself in what I knew was true. But even as I said it, another memory surfaced. Maria dying from cancer when I was in high school. And another, Maria never existing at all, me being an only child. My head pounded. Which was real? I grabbed my old military ID card from my wallet. It said Air Force, just as I remembered. But when I looked again, it changed to Army. I blinked, and it showed Navy. The dates were wrong, too. Sometimes it showed I served during desert conflicts, I remembered. Other times, wars I'd never heard of. Once, briefly, it showed a date from the 1970s, decades before I was born. Cisco padded over to me, but when I looked down, I jerked back in shock. For a split second, he wasn't a German Shepherd. He was a golden retriever. Then he flickered back. "Cisco!" My voice cracked. He whined, and for a moment his form blurred again. This time he looked like an old cat I had as a child. Then, most terrifying of all, He briefly took the shape of Maria, staring at me with sad eyes before becoming a dog again. I stumbled to the bathroom and splashed cold water on my face. When I looked in the mirror, I didn't recognize myself. The face staring back had my eyes, but different cheekbones, different hair. As I watched, my reflection shifted subtly, sometimes older, sometimes younger, sometimes with scars I didn't have, sometimes with a completely different jawline. "Who am I?" I whispered to the shifting face. I knew my name, Elena Rodriguez Martinez. But was that real? Had it always been my name? I grabbed my logbook, flipping through the pages frantically. Some entries were written in handwriting I didn't recognize, yet somehow knew was mine. Some referred to events I couldn't remember. One page simply repeated, "Who am I?" over and over in increasingly frantic script. The creature, the temporal chupacabra, had told me it fed on potential futures. But what if it wasn't just consuming futures? What if it was consuming me, my identity, my past, my very existence? A terrible thought hit me. What if I wasn't even human? What if I was just the creature's memory of someone it had consumed long ago? I tried to radio base, but the voice that answered wasn't the usual dispatcher. It was Maria's voice, Maria, who might be dead or might never have existed. "Elena, can you hear me? Where are you? I've been looking everywhere for you." I dropped. The radio like it had burned me. Outside, the desert looked normal, but I couldn't trust my eyes anymore. The metal around my neck pulsed with heat, then cold, then heat again. As 6:47 p.m. approached, I sat on a rock, waiting. I didn't run this time. What was the point? I watched as the creature approached, its form shifting just like my memories, just like my reflection. "Am I real?" I asked it. It tilted its head. In my mind, I heard, "Were you ever?" As the acid hit me and the world faded, I wondered if my identity wasn't stable, if my memories weren't real. Was I dying at all? Or was I just changing into something else with each loop? The darkness took me, and my last thought was that maybe I wasn't the victim. Maybe I was becoming the monster. Loop 124. The numbers don't mean much anymore, but I keep counting anyway. It gives me something to hold on to. This morning I woke up at 8:00 a.m. as usual, but when I opened my cabin door, I wasn't alone. Standing there, wearing the same ranger uniform, was me. Another Elena Rodriguez Martinez. We stared at each other in shocked silence. She looked exactly like me, except her hair was slightly longer, and she had a scar on her cheek I didn't have. "Loop 143, she said simply. "I'm only on a 124, I replied, my voice barely a whisper. She nodded, unsurprised. "The loops aren't synced. Time isn't linear here." As we walked into the desert together, she explained that she'd started seeing other versions of herself around Loop 90. Some appeared only briefly, like ghosts. Others stayed longer. "How many of us are there?" I asked. "I've counted 17 so far," she said, "but there could be hundreds." By midday, we'd met 3 more Elenas. One wore an army uniform instead of ranger gear. One had a broken arm, in a cast. One was much older, with grey streaks in her hair. The older Elena looked at me with tired eyes. "First time meeting another you?" I nodded. "It gets easier," she said, "but it never feels normal." We gathered in a circle near a cluster of Joshua trees. Each Elena had a different story about. "Maria," Army Elena said. "Maria died in a helicopter crash in Afghanistan." The Elena with the broken arm shook her head. "No, Maria died of cancer when we were teenagers." The older Elena looked down. "In my timeline, Maria was murdered in Phoenix." And my Maria? I couldn't even remember anymore. The metal around my neck felt heavier than ever. "She's not real, is she?" I asked quietly. "None of our Marias are real." The older Elena touched her own medal. "She was real once. I think she's become an anchor, something the creature can't quite erase. As we shared our stories, I realized each of us had experienced slightly different versions of the same timeline, different military services, different pasts, different deaths of Maria. But we all ended up here in this desert, trapped in this loop. The creature is feeding on the paradox energy, the Army Elena explained. When multiple versions of the same person exist in one place, it creates a temporal distortion, like throwing a rock in a pond and watching the ripples collide. That's why it keeps us trapped, the older Elena added. We're its perfect food source. But why us? I asked. Why Elena Rodriguez Martinez? No one had an answer. As the afternoon wore on, we tried to make a plan. If we all confronted the creature together, could we overpower it? If we all went in different directions at once, could at least one of us escape? The Elena with the broken arm shook her head. I tried that in loop 118. We gathered 37 Elenas. None of us made it past 647. The sun was setting now. We all knew what was coming. Maybe next loop, the Army Elena said softly, but there was no hope in her voice. At exactly 6:47 p.m., the creature appeared. But this time, it wasn't just one creature. There were multiple versions of it, one for each of us. They surrounded our circle of Elenas. I reached out and grabbed the hands of the Elenas next to me. They did the same, until we formed an unbroken chain. Together, the older Elena said. The creatures moved as one. I felt the familiar burning pain begin, but this time it was different. I could feel the other Elenas dying with me. I could feel their pain mixed with my own. As darkness took us all, I had a brief, terrible vision. The creature feeding not just on our potential futures, but on the energy created by our collective. Deaths, a feast of paradox, as dozens of versions of the same person died simultaneously. Then nothing. 8 a.m., 72 degrees. I was alone again, but now I knew I wasn't really alone. Somewhere in this twisted desert, other versions of me were waking up too, and somehow that made everything both better and much, much worse. Loop 200, a milestone of sorts. I've been trapped in this day for what feels like lifetimes. This morning was different. When I looked out my cabin window, I saw something impossible. The desert was changing. Parts of the landscape were normal. The familiar Joshua trees, the sandy soil, the distant mountains. But other parts were wrong. About a mile away, where there should have been dry desert, I saw water, a vast, shimmering lake that had no business being there. I grabbed my binoculars. The lake wasn't just any lake. Along its shores, I could see strange animals, huge, elephant-like creatures with long tusks, giant sloths, animals that belonged in museums, not in the modern world. Pleistocene era, I whispered, remembering lessons from a college geology. Class, that's from thousands of years ago. Cisco whined at my side, pressing against my leg. I scratched his ears, trying to calm both of us. It's okay, boy. We're just seeing things. But I wasn't just seeing things. When I looked in the other direction, toward where Las Vegas should be, about 100 miles away and normally invisible from here, I saw a city skyline. But not the Las Vegas I knew. This one had impossibly tall buildings that glittered like diamonds, flying vehicles moving between them. A city from the future. The desert was showing multiple time periods at once, like different channels on a TV that were all playing simultaneously. I grabbed my gear and headed out. I had to see this up close. As I drove, the landscape kept shifting. One minute I'd be on a normal desert road. The next I'd be driving through patches of prehistoric plants. Then suddenly I'd hit a stretch where the road was cracked and abandoned with decades of neglect. About 3 miles from my cabin, I stopped. The jeep. The air felt strange here, thicker somehow, and I could see mathematics. That's the only way I can describe it. Floating in the air were symbols, equations, numbers, as if the fabric of reality itself was showing its underlying code. The creature is doing this, I said to Cisco. It's eating so much temporal energy that reality is breaking down. I pressed, forward on foot. The equations in the air grew more complex. Some of them moved, shifting and changing like living things. I realized with a chill that they weren't just random. They were organized, purposeful. At the center of a small clearing, I found it, the creature, but not like I'd ever seen it before. It wasn't trying to hide its true form anymore. What I saw wasn't a physical being, not really. It was a living equation, a mathematical pattern that somehow existed in physical space. Parts of it folded into dimensions I couldn't see, only to reappear elsewhere. It wasn't solid or liquid or gas. It was information made real. "What are you doing to this place?" I asked, my voice surprisingly steady. In my mind, I heard its response: consuming, growing, becoming. All around us, reality continued to fracture. I saw dinosaurs in the distance. I saw futuristic vehicles hovering above. I saw Native American tribes that had lived in this desert centuries ago, going about their lives as if we weren't there. "You're breaking down the walls between time periods," I said, understanding dawning. "You're feeding on all of time at once." "Yes," the creature's form pulsed with each word in my mind. "All moments exist simultaneously. I merely remove the barriers." I stared at the living equation before me, trying to comprehend what I was seeing. As I watched, the mathematical symbols that made up its body began to reveal themselves more clearly. I could almost understand the pattern, almost, grasp the formula, and then my brain felt like it was on fire. The metal around my neck burned white-hot against my skin. The equations were becoming visible to me, the mathematics of reality itself, and my human mind couldn't handle it. I fell to my knees, blood trickling from my nose. Cisco barked frantically beside me, but his bark sounded distorted, like it was coming through water. The creature moved closer. As the patterns of its body became clearer to me, my vision began to fracture. I saw too much, every possible version of this moment happening at once. Too soon. The creature's voice echoed in my failing mind. "Not ready?" As 6:47 p.m. approached, I wasn't dying from acid this time. I was dying from knowledge, from seeing reality as it truly was. My human brain simply couldn't process the mathematics of existence. The last thing I saw before darkness took me was the desert itself coming apart at the seams, showing the equations underneath everything. And I understood, in that final moment, that the creature wasn't just feeding on time, it was feeding on reality itself. Loop 333. The number seems important somehow, but I can't remember why. My memories blur together now, hundreds of loops melting into one long nightmare. This morning, I didn't get out of bed immediately. I lay there, staring at the ceiling, Maria's medal clutched in my hand. After so many loops, I'd come to a decision. If I couldn't beat the creature, maybe I could join it. The thought terrified me, but what choice did I have? Hundreds of loops, hundreds of deaths, and no escape. Maybe becoming like the creature was the only way out. "What do you think, Cisco?" I asked. My faithful companion whined softly, as if he understood the dangerous path I was considering. I gathered only what I needed, my logbook and Maria's medal. Then I headed straight for where I knew the creature would be, not waiting for it to find me, but seeking it out deliberately. The desert looked even stranger today. Reality was thin here now, worn down by hundreds of loops. In some places I could see through to other times, other worlds, dinosaurs in the distance, future cities on the horizon, the past and future bleeding into the present. I found the creature waiting in the same canyon where I died that first time so many loops ago. It seemed to be expecting me. "I want to become like you," I said, my voice echoing strangely in the unstable air. "I want to escape the loop." The creature's form shifted, showing more of its true mathematical nature. In my mind, I heard, "Transformation possible, painful, incomplete." "I don't care," I said. "Anything is better than this endless cycle." "Begin," it responded. The transformation started slowly. The creature extended part of its form, a tendril of living equation, and touched my forehead. The moment it made contact, knowledge flooded into me. Terrible, beautiful knowledge about the nature of time, reality, dimensions beyond human understanding. My skin began to change, becoming translucent in places. I could see the equations that made up my own body, the mathematics of Elena Rodriguez Martinez. But as the transformation continued, something unexpected happened. Memories surfaced, not my own, but the creature's. I saw it as it once was, human, a scientist in a government facility, a woman working on temporal physics. I saw experiments with time, with reality itself. I saw the accident that transformed her into what she became, and I recognized her face. It was older, changed, but unmistakable. The creature had once been me, a future version of Elena Rodriguez Martinez, who had tampered with the fabric of reality and paid the price. "You're me?" I gasped through the pain of transformation. "Was you, will be you, am you." The thoughts came in fragments as more memories flooded in. I saw a government facility built on this exact spot, existing across all time periods simultaneously. I saw experiments with time loops, with dimensional barriers. I saw myself working there in a future that might never happen now. And I saw Maria, not my sister, not exactly, a test subject, the first to be caught in a time loop. The government had taken her, used her in their experiments. And I, my future self, had tried to save her, only to become trapped in the loop, myself transformed into the creature I now faced. The medal around my neck burned hotter than ever, not a gift from my sister, but a temporal anchor, a device created to stabilize someone caught in a loop. The transformation continued, my body becoming less solid, more mathematical, but it was incomplete, stuck between human and creature. Part of me remained Elena, while another part became something else entirely. "Cannot complete," the creatures. Thoughts came to me, too much humanity remains. I looked down at my half-transformed body, part flesh, part living equation, and understood. I couldn't fully become the creature because I was still holding on to my humanity, onto Maria, onto the anchor that kept me at least partially real. The sun was setting. 6:47 p.m. approached. "What happens now?" I asked, my voice no longer fully human. "Loop continues, transformation incomplete." As the familiar darkness began to take me, I realized the terrible truth. I couldn't escape by becoming the creature because the creature itself was trapped. We were both prisoners of the loop, feeding on each other across time in an endless cycle. My last thought before darkness took me was a question. If the creature was a future version of me, and I was becoming the creature, who was the original? Had there ever been a first Elena? Or were we just echoes of each other, trapped in an endless circle of cause and effect? Then nothing. 8 km, 72 degrees. I looked down at my hands, human again, but I could still see faint traces of equations. Under my skin, I wasn't fully human anymore. But I wasn't the creature either. I was something in between. Loop 500, a nice round number. I smile at that thought as I open my eyes to the same 8 a.m., the same 72 degrees. But I'm not the same Elena who started this journey. My skin still looks human, but underneath, I can see the equations flowing, the mathematics of reality visible. To me now, I'm caught between worlds, between states of being, and today I've made a decision. I'm going to stop fighting the loop. 500 deaths, 500 rebirths, endless struggle against something I can't defeat. It's time for a different approach. Cisco greets me as always, but now I can see what he truly is, a fragment of my own soul, a piece of my humanity given form to keep me company, to keep me sane through the endless loops. "Good morning, old friend," I say, scratching behind his ears. "Today's going to be different." I walk outside without my ranger gear, without weapons, without plans of escape. Just me and Cisco, heading into the desert that exists in all times simultaneously. The creature is waiting for me, not hiding, not hunting, just waiting. I sit cross-legged on the sand before it, my partly mathematical body resonating with its completely mathematical one. "I understand now," I say simply. The creature's form shifts, curious. In my mind I hear, "What do you understand? Why this is happening? Why it's necessary?" Through our partial connection, me being partly transformed into its kind, I've glimpsed the larger reality. The loops aren't just about feeding, they're about preservation. The universe is running down, I say. Entropy, everything moving toward chaos and stillness. But these loops, they create energy. They keep reality from collapsing. Yes. The creature's form pulses with something like approval. You're not just feeding, you're maintaining, preserving. "We preserve," it corrects me. "You and I, all versions." I look down at Maria's medal, the temporal anchor that's kept me at least partly human through all these loops. I understand its purpose now. "I need to make a choice, don't I?" I ask. "Stay trapped in the loop forever, or become guardian," the creature finishes my thought. "Maintain time-stream intersection, preserve reality." The choice is clear. Continue fighting and dying for eternity, or accept a new role. Become something beyond human, a guardian of time. "I'll do it," I say. "I'll maintain the loop willingly." The creature, my future self, my past self, all versions of Elena across time, extends a tendril of living equation toward me. This time, I don't resist the transformation, but I don't lose myself either. I hold tight to Maria's medal, to Cisco, to the parts of me that are still human. I won't become the creature entirely. I'll become something new, a bridge between human and temporal entity. As the transformation completes, the world around me changes. I can see all loops simultaneously, all 500 versions of this day playing out at once. I can see every death, every awakening. I can see other rangers who will come to this desert decades from now, centuries from now. And I can see Maria, not as my sister, but as the first temporal test subject, the reason all of this began. She was never real in the way I thought, but she matters. She's the anchor that keeps this whole system stable. Cisco sits beside me, his form shifting between dog and pure energy, a fragment of my humanity that will stay with me through eternity. The sun sets, but 6:47 p.m. no longer means death. Time has no meaning for me now. I exist across all moments, simultaneously a guardian of the desert void where reality intersects with itself. In the years that follow, other rangers will glimpse me, a woman with a dog, appearing in impossible places, warning them away from temporal anomalies. Government files will label me a desert spirit, a temporal ghost. Do not investigate, they'll warn. And sometimes when a visitor to the desert strays too close to the thin places where reality wears down, they'll hear my voice on the wind. The loop protects us all. The void must be maintained. I am Elena Rodriguez Martinez. I am the guardian of the desert void. I am the keeper of time. And somewhere, in the back of my mind, I can still hear Maria's voice, the anchor that keeps me at least partly human, despite existing outside normal time. "Remember," she whispers, though she never existed as I imagined her, "remember who you were." And I do remember. Even as I watch over the desert across all times at once, I remember being human. I remember 500 loops of struggle and discovery. I remember what it means to be Elena. That memory, that humanity, is what makes me different from the creature I might have become. It's what makes me a guardian rather than just a prisoner of time. The desert exists in all moments simultaneously, and so do I. The void must be maintained, and somewhere a reader reads these words. A reader who has fallen into their own loop without realizing it. How many times have you read this story now? What anchors you to your reality? The desert calls to us all eventually. Time is not as linear as you believe. I'll be waiting when you arrive. My name is Vincent Kellerman. Most folks just call me Vince. The doctors here keep asking me to tell them what happened that day up in the mountains. They say it'll help me process the trauma. I don't see the point, but Dr. Wilkins seems like a decent enough guy. Less pushy than the others. Let's start from the beginning, Vince, Dr. Wilkins says, clicking his pen and settling into that fake leather chair that squeaks whenever he moves. Tell me about your patrol 3 months ago. I nod, trying to focus. The meds make everything fuzzy around the edges. The white walls of this room seem to breathe sometimes, expanding and contracting like lungs. But that's just the pills talking. It was a Thursday, I begin, the same way I always do. Just a routine patrol through the eastern section of the forest. Nothing special about it. Weather was perfect that morning. Dr. Wilkins makes a note. He always writes something down when I mention the weather. And who was with you that day? He asks, though he knows the answer. Just me and Rex, I say, smiling at the memory of my loyal German shepherd. Best damn trail dog in the service. The doctor's face does that thing again, that tiny flinch he tries to hide. I know what he's thinking. He doesn't believe Rex was there. Hell, sometimes I catch myself reaching down to pat a dog that isn't beside me anymore. And where were you heading that morning, he continues. Home to Eleanor, I say, my fingers automatically finding the chain around my neck. Funny, I can't feel my wedding ring hanging from it. Must have slipped inside my hospital gown. She was making pot roast that night. It was our anniversary. Dr. Wilkins puts his clipboard down and leans forward. His eyes are kind, but sad. Vince, we've talked about Eleanor before. Do you remember what happened to her? I feel a flash of irritation. Course I do. She's waiting at home, probably worried sick about me being stuck in this place. Vincent, he says gently, Eleanor passed away 5 years ago, in 1957. I laugh, but it comes out wrong. Too high, too tight. That's ridiculous. I just saw her that morning before I left. Dr. Wilkins sighs and picks up his clipboard again. Tell me more about that morning in the woods, before anything unusual happened. I close my eyes, trying to picture it clearly, but things keep shifting. The trail moves, the trees change color, the sun jumps positions in the sky. It was peaceful, I say firmly, because that much I'm sure of. Birds singing, streams gurgling over rocks, perfect hiking weather. But even as I say it, I hear rain hammering against the hospital windows, and something in my gut twists, like I'm telling a lie I didn't know was a lie. Everything was normal, I insist, more to myself than to Dr. Wilkins, until it wasn't. I remember setting out just after sunrise. The sky was that soft pink color, like the inside of a seashell. The air felt clean in my lungs, not like in here, where everything smells of bleach and old food. Come on, Rex, I called, and he bounded ahead of me on the trail, his tail wagging like a flag in the wind. Such a good dog, always checking back to make sure I was still following. The trail was one I'd walked 100 times before. Up through the pine trees, past the old lightning-struck oak, then along the ridge that looks down over Blackwater Valley. My boots crunched on the path. Birds called to each other overhead. Everything felt right. I had my pack with lunch, Eleanor's sandwiches wrapped in wax paper, ham and cheese with that spicy mustard I like. I had my canteen of water, my ranger's hat pulled low to block the sun, and Grandpa's compass hanging. And from my belt, that compass never failed me, pointed true north no matter what. "Beautiful day for a patrol, ain't it, Rex?" I said, and I swear that dog smiled back at me. But then, wait, something's not right about this memory. I pause, and Dr. Wilkins looks up from his notes. "What is it, Vince?" "I'm not sure," I mumble. "Something about the weather." "The weather reports from that day," Dr. Wilkins says carefully, "showed severe storms in the Cascade Range. Zero visibility in some areas." I shake my head. No, that can't be right. The sun was shining. I remember the warmth on my face. But even as I say it, I'm not so sure anymore. There's a flash in my mind. Rain soaking through my jacket, mud sucking at my boots, wind howling between the trees like a wounded animal. I rub my eyes. Maybe there was a storm later. Yeah, that's it. Started out nice, then turned bad. Dr. Wilkins just watches me, his pen hovering over his notepad. "Anyway," I continue, trying to find my place in the story. "I was checking trail markers that morning, making sure hikers wouldn't get lost. That's important work, you know. People die in those mountains if they wander off the path." I remember the solid weight of my rifle against my shoulder, the familiar smell of gun oil and leather from my belt. These things I'm sure of. Rex was about 20 yards ahead when he stopped suddenly. His ears perked up and he went stiff as a board. That's when I knew something was wrong. "What did Rex find?" Dr. Wilkins asks. "Nothing at first. He was just listening. And then I felt it too, the silence." Silence. Yeah, the birds stopped singing. The insects stopped buzzing. Even the wind died down. It was like the whole forest was holding its breath. I lean forward in my chair, feeling my heart speed up, just like it did that day. "You ever been in the woods when everything goes quiet at once, Doc? It's not natural. Means something's out there, something that scares even the animals." Dr. Wilkins nods, but I can tell he doesn't understand. City folk never do. I called Rex back to me, nice and quiet, took the safety off my rifle, started looking around, real careful like. My hands are shaking now. I clench them into fists to make them stop. That's when I saw the claw marks on the trees, deep gouges in the bark, higher than a man could reach. Fresh too. The sap was still oozing out. I pause because the memory shifts again. For a second, I see my own hands, bloody and torn, scratching at rough bark. "Go on, Vince," Dr. Wilkins says. "What happened next?" "I smelled it," I whisper, "like metal and rot. The kind of smell that makes your stomach turn. And I knew we weren't alone in those woods anymore. The smell got stronger as we moved deeper into the woods," I tell Dr. Wilkins. "Rex didn't like it one bit. His tail tucked between his legs, and he stuck close to my side." I remember how the trees seemed to close in around us, like they were leaning in to listen. The silence hung heavy in the air. I found something else strange about a quarter-mile down the trail. An abandoned campsite. Dr. Wilkins raises his eyebrows. "Abandoned?" "Yeah. Tent was still up. Sleeping bag unzipped inside. Little camp stove with a pot of coffee cold as ice. But no people. Not a soul. In my mind, I see it clearly. The blue tent with one side caved in. Clothes scattered around like someone left in a hurry. A book face down in the dirt, pages fluttering in the breeze. Most concerning thing was the backpack," I continue. "Nobody leaves their backpack in these woods. That's where you keep your food, your map, your first aid kit, your survival stuff." I shake my head, remembering how wrong it all felt. I called out, thinking maybe they were just off answering nature's call. "Hello? Ranger Kellerman here. Anyone? Around?" My voice echoed back to me, flat and lonely. Dr. Wilkins scribbled something on his pad. And no one answered? Not a human sound, I say, but that's when I heard it. Heard what? A thump, like something heavy falling from a great height. Then another and another, like footsteps, but too far apart, too heavy. I feel my pulse quicken as I tell this part. My mouth goes dry. I pulled out Grandpa's compass to check our bearings, thought maybe we should head back, report the abandoned campsite. But what? The needle was spinning, round and round like it couldn't find north. Never seen anything like it before. As I say this, I notice my hands are trembling. Not just a little shake, but violent tremors that I can't control. I shove them under my thighs to hide them. That's when I found the deer, I say quietly. Dr. Wilkins leans forward. What deer? A young buck, torn apart. Not eaten, just destroyed, like something had ripped it to pieces out of anger, not hunger. The image flashes in my mind, the glazed eyes, the splayed limbs, the red mess that used to be a living creature. But something's off about the memory. For a split second, I see the deer by the side of a road, not in the forest. I see my own hands dragging it. I shake my head to clear the thought. Rex started growling, a deep sound from his chest I'd never heard before. His eyes fixed on something in the trees that I couldn't see. What did you do? Dr. Wilkins asks. What any sane person would do. I grabbed Rex's collar and started backing away, nice and slow. I remember the sweat trickling down my back despite the cool air, the way my boots seemed too loud on the forest floor. That's when I heard the owl. An owl? In daytime? Yeah. Strange, right? A screech owl by the sound of it. But the cry cut off halfway through. Just stopped, like someone had grabbed the bird mid-screech. I swallow hard, my throat clicking. Then I saw it, high up in a pine tree, a dead owl, pinned to the trunk by its wings, spread out like it was on display. Dr. Wilkins frowns. And you believe this was done by the same thing that killed the deer? I nod slowly. But that wasn't the worst part, Doc. What was the worst part? The owl was still blinking, still alive somehow. As I say this, a memory flashes. My hands covered in feathers, my stomach growling with hunger. I push it away. Then the fog rolled in, I whisper. Thick white fog that seemed to come from nowhere. In minutes I couldn't see more than 10 feet ahead. My voice catches. And that's when I realized the trail markers were gone. All of them. Like someone, or something, had moved them while I wasn't looking. The room feels colder suddenly. Dr. Wilkins is watching me closely. And in that fog, I finish, that's when I first heard it scream. The scream wasn't like anything I'd ever heard before. Not human, not animal. It started low, like the rumble of a far-off train, then rose higher and higher until it felt like needles in my ears. Rex went crazy, I tell Dr. Wilkins, barking, spinning in circles, pulling at his collar so hard I almost lost my grip. I remember how my blood turned to ice water in my veins, how my legs wanted to run, but my brain couldn't decide which way was safe. I called out, "Forest Service. Identify yourself." But deep down, I knew it wasn't a person out there. Dr. Wilkins tilts his head. What did you think it was? I hesitate. This is the part where people usually start looking at me funny. I've been in those mountains my whole life, Doc. Seen bears, cougars, all sorts of wildlife. This was different. I take a deep breath. The locals have stories about something they call the bat squatch. Bat squatch? Dr. Wilkins repeats, trying not to sound skeptical. Like a mix between a bat and a Sasquatch. Giant creature covered in dark fur with leather wings and glowing red eyes. I shrug. I always thought it was nonsense. Stories to scare tourists. But in that moment, I trail off, seeing it again in my mind. The massive shadow moving through the fog. Taller than a man, wider than a bear. It came through the mist like a ghost, I whisper. 1 minute, nothing was there. Then suddenly there it was, watching me. My heart pounds against my ribs, just like it did then. At first I only saw the eyes, red like Hot coals. Intelligent. They weren't animal eyes, Doc. They knew things. They recognized me somehow. Dr. Wilkins's pen scratches across his pad. Recognized you? Yeah, like it knew who I was. What I'd done. Another flash of memory. Different eyes looking at me. German eyes, terrified, as I raised my rifle in the chaos of battle. Friendly fire, they called it later. A mistake anyone could make in the fog of war. I blink hard, pushing the image away. The fog swirled around it, making it hard to see clearly. But it was huge. Had to be 8, maybe 9 feet tall. Arms hanging down past its knees, and the wings, they unfolded from its back like giant bat wings, but somehow wrong, like they were made of shadow instead of skin. My voice sounds strange in my own ears, far away. I raised my rifle, but my hands were shaking so bad I couldn't aim straight. Rex was still barking his head off, tugging to get free. What did the creature do? Dr. Wilkins asks. Nothing at first, just watched me. Then it spoke. Spoke? With words. Not exactly, it was more like I heard a voice in my head. A woman's voice. Dr. Wilkins goes very still. What did this voice say? My throat tightens. It said, Vincent, why did you leave me alone? The doctor's eyes narrow slightly. And whose voice was it? Eleanor's, I whisper. My wife's voice. But that's impossible, right? Eleanor's at home waiting for me. Even as I say it, something cold slides through my stomach, a feeling that I'm missing something important. The creature took a step toward me. The ground shook. Trees bent away from it, like they were afraid to touch it. I swallow hard. Then it reached out one long arm, pointing at me with claws like black knives, and it screamed again. I cover my ears reflexively. The memory of that sound so vivid, it feels real. That's when Rex broke free, lunged straight at the thing, teeth bared. Bravest damn dog I ever knew. My voice cracks and I have to stop for a moment. What happened to Rex? Dr. Wilkins asks gently. I can't remember exactly. Everything went crazy. The creature moved so fast, just a blur of darkness. Rex yelped once, then I squeeze my eyes shut. Then I was alone. Dr. Wilkins watches me, his face unreadable. And what did you do then, Vincent? The only thing I could do, I say. I ran. Running through fog in a forest is like moving through a nightmare. You can't see where you're going. Every tree jumps out at you at the last second. I tripped over roots, smacked into branches, cut my face open on something sharp. I had no idea which way I was going, I tell Dr. Wilkins. North, south. It all looked the same in that fog. And I swear the trees kept moving. Moving? He asks. How do you mean? Like they were shifting positions when I wasn't looking. I'd run past a split trunk, then somehow end up passing it again 5 minutes later. The forest was changing. Dr. Wilkins makes a note. And the creature, was it following you? I couldn't see it, but I could feel it, like eyes on my back. I rubbed my arms, suddenly cold, and there was this humming sound, low, so low you felt it more than heard it, made my teeth hurt. I remember how the world started to tilt and twist around me, how time seemed to stretch and shrink. I came to a stream I recognized, Cold Water Creek, but it was flowing uphill instead of down, the water moving the wrong way. Another memory flashes, my face reflected in that stream, but it's not my face. It's bloated, red-veined, the face of a drunk. I shake my head to clear it. I tried using Grandpa's compass again, but it was worse than before. The needle wasn't just spinning now, it was bending, like something was pulling on it. Then it snapped clean off. Dr. Wilkins leans forward. What did you do then? I remember sitting down on a log. My legs wouldn't hold me up anymore. My lungs were burning. I press a hand to my chest. That's when I notice the silence again, but different this time. Different how? I couldn't even hear myself breathing, like the world had been wrapped in cotton. And the fog, it started to pulse like it was alive, throbbing in time with my heartbeat. Something odd happens as I speak. For a moment I see myself from above, a shabby figure in dirty clothes, sitting not on a log but on the ground of a filthy cabin, empty bottles scattered around. No forest, just four walls closing in. The image vanishes as quickly as it came. I called for Rex, I continue, my voice shaking, over and over, but no sound came out of my mouth. The doctor watches me carefully. Then what happened? I saw Eleanor. His eyebrows rise slightly. She was standing about 20 yards away, in a little clearing. The fog parted around her, like it was afraid to touch her. She was wearing her blue Sunday dress, the one with little white flowers. My fingers find the empty chain around my neck again. I called to her, but she didn't seem to hear me. She just stared, looking sad. Then she turned and walked deeper into the fog. "Did you follow her?" Dr. Wilkins asks. "Of course I did. She's my wife." I lean forward. But something strange happened when I stood up. For a second, just a split second, I saw myself still sitting on the log, like I was in two places at once. Dr. Wilkins writes something down. As I followed Eleanor, things got worse. The trees started to bend and twist like they were made of rubber. The ground rippled under my feet, and the sky... I pause, struggling to describe it. The sky wasn't right. It was too close, and the wrong color, sort of green, like pond scum. "You must have been very frightened," Dr. Wilkins says softly. "Terrified," I admit, but I had to reach Eleanor. She kept getting further away, no matter how fast I moved. Another flash, me stumbling through woods at night, calling Eleanor's name. But this is years ago, after she left me, after I hit her that last time. The creature appeared again, I say quickly, pushing the other memory away. It moved between me and Eleanor, but it looked different now. Different. How? It was changing. One moment it had the bat-like shape, the next it looked more like a man, then something else entirely. Parts of it were see-through, like I could look right through it to the trees behind. I rub my eyes, which suddenly burn with fatigue, and the whole time it kept making that sound, not the scream anymore, but a low, sad moaning, like it was in pain. Dr. Wilkins leans back in his chair. "Vincent, do you remember what we discussed about projection?" I frown. "What's that got to do with anything?" "Sometimes, when we're troubled, our minds create external representations of our internal struggles." I snort. "You saying I made this thing up, that it's all in my head?" "I'm suggesting that what you experienced might be connected to unresolved trauma," he says gently. I feel anger rising in my chest. I know what I saw. "Of course. Please, continue with what happened next." I take a deep breath, trying to calm down. My hands are shaking worse now. Eleanor vanished, just faded away into nothing, and I was alone with the creature. It stood there, half solid, half shadow, watching me with those knowing eyes. The memory shifts again. I'm looking at my own reflection in a broken mirror, my eyes bloodshot and empty. Then everything went black, I say, like someone turned off the lights of the world. When the darkness lifted, I was somewhere else, a clearing I didn't recognize, with tall grass swaying in a wind I couldn't feel. The fog was thinner here, hanging in patches like torn cotton. The creature was waiting for me, I tell Dr. Wilkins, standing in the center of the clearing. But now I could see it clearly for the first time. I lean forward, hands gripping my knees. It had my face, Doc. Dr. Wilkins goes still. "Your face?" "My face, but wrong, twisted, like looking in one of those carnival mirrors. My eyes, my nose, my mouth, but stretched over something that wasn't human." A cold sweat breaks out on my forehead as I remember. It wasn't just my face. It was wearing a ranger's uniform too. Torn and dirty, but definitely a uniform. And around its neck, I touch my own neck. It wore a chain with a wedding ring hanging from it. Dr. Wilkins makes a note, his pen scratching softly against paper. I raised my rifle, but when I looked down, it wasn't my rifle anymore. It was just a broken stick, useless. What did you do? Dr. Wilkins asks. I still had Grandpa's compass. The needle was gone, but the metal case was heavy in my hand. I thought maybe if I could just hit it hard enough. I mimed swinging something. I charged at it. No plan really, just blind terror and anger. The thing didn't move, just watched. Me coming with those eyes, my eyes full of pity, I think. Another memory intrudes, me swinging at shadows in an empty cabin, screaming at ghosts that weren't there. When I got close, it reached out, fast as lightning, grabbed my wrist. Its hand was ice cold and burning hot at the same time. I rubbed my wrist, feeling phantom pain. And when it touched me, I remembered things. What things? Bad things. Things I've tried to forget. The beach at Normandy, the confusion, the smoke, firing at shapes in the mist that turned out to be our own men. Eleanor's face bruised and scared the night she finally left. Wrecks. Had there ever really been? A wrecks? Or just strays I fed sometimes when the loneliness got too bad? Doc, you ever feel like your whole life is built on lies you've told yourself? I ask suddenly. That's a common feeling, especially when we're confronting difficult truths, he replies. I nod slowly. The creature spoke again, not with Eleanor's voice this time, with mine. What did it say? It said, "You know what I am." My voice drops to a whisper, and I did know. Right then, I knew. What was it, Vincent? It was me, the real me, all the parts I've been running from. I stare at my trembling hands, seeing them clearly for the first time. The broken nails, the scars from fights I started, the yellowed fingers from too many cigarettes. I swung the compass at its head, hard as I could. The thing didn't even try to dodge. Metal hit bone with a sound like a bell ringing. My breath comes faster now, the memory so vivid, it's like, I'm back there. It screamed, that awful scream again, fell to its knees, but it didn't bleed. Instead, it started to melt, like ice in hot water, parts of it turning to smoke, parts to some kind of acid that hissed when it hit the ground. Dr. Wilkins watches me intently. As it melted away, I saw something lying on the ground behind it, something small and furry. Rex? Dr. Wilkins asks. I nod, throat tight. He wasn't moving. I ran to him, fell to my knees beside him. His fur was wet, with rain, I thought. But when I touched him, my hand came away red. A tear slides down my cheek, surprising me. I tried to pick him up, to carry him home, but I stopped, confused. But he wasn't there anymore. My hands were empty, and they were covered in scratches, like I'd been clawing at something. The room seems to waver around me, reality bending just like it did in the forest. The ground opened up, I continue, voice hollow, right under my feet. I was falling, spinning in darkness, and all around me I could hear voices. Whose voices? Everyone. Eleanor, the men I killed by mistake, my father telling me I'd never amount to anything, my own voice screaming in the night. I pressed my palms against my temples. They were all saying the same thing over and over. What were they saying? Wake up, Vince. Wake up. I look up at Dr. Wilkins, suddenly uncertain. I think I passed out. Next thing I knew, I was lying face down in mud. The fog was gone. It was raining. Had been raining all along, maybe. My shoulder hurt something. Awful. Dislocated, I found out later. How did you get back to safety? Dr. Wilkins asks. I just started walking. Don't know how long I walked. Hours, maybe. My boots were falling apart. Clothes soaked through. No compass, no rifle, no Rex. I pause, frowning. I found a trail eventually, followed it downhill. That's always the way back to civilization. Follow the water downhill. But even as I say it, I'm not sure that's what happened. The memory keeps shifting, changing shape like the creature in the fog. They found me on the road, I say finally. Some hikers said I was screaming about something coming after me, said I was covered in blood. Your blood? I don't know. I look down at my hands again, seeing the healing cuts across the knuckles. I really don't know anymore, Doc. My name is Marcus Stevens, but everyone calls me Mark. I'm 34 years old, and I work as a park ranger at Olympic National Park in Washington. Before this job, I was a Navy SEAL. That life feels like a lifetime ago now. I came here to escape the noise in my head, the sounds of war that followed me home. My doctors call it auditory PTSD. I just call it hell. But here, surrounded by tall trees and open sky, things are better. The sounds of nature have a way of washing away the bad memories. Perfect weather today, skies clear blue with just a few clouds, temperatures around 65 degrees, wildlife activity seems normal. I've spotted a few deer, some rabbits, and plenty of birds going about their business. The Solduc River is flowing strong after last week's rain. The sound of rushing water is like white noise, drowning out everything else. It's perfect. After years of hearing explosions, gunfire, and screams in my sleep, the simple sound of water can be healing. Ranger, my Irish setter, is with me today. He's a good boy, well-trained and smart. Wait, he's acting strange, pointing upstream, ears perked up. That's not like him. He usually only alerts to animals or people, but I don't see anything. There's a weird pressure in my left ear. Nothing major, probably just the change in altitude as I hiked up this morning. Happens all the time up here. Sound of elk calling in the distance. Those are Roosevelt elk. We have a healthy herd in this part of the park. Normally I love their calls, but today the high notes make me wince. Maybe I slept on my ear wrong. Base, this is Ranger Stevens checking in from Sector 7. Everything appears normal. Over. Radio static. That's odd. The dispatcher's voice sounded different, almost like it was coming from underwater or something. Probably just bad reception in this area. More pronounced echo effect. I find myself touching the small pin I keep on my uniform. It's my brother Michael's Navy wings. I always wear them. The metal feels unusually warm against my chest right now. Strange. Brief bursts of static. There's a fog bank rolling in from the ocean. That's early for this time of year. As it approaches, I notice a light ringing in my ears. Nothing too bad, just mild tinnitus, probably from the changing air pressure. Hello, base? Can you repeat that last message? Silence. That's weird. I could have sworn the radio crackled with a message, but there's nothing. Must be hearing things. Wouldn't be the first time. Ranger seems uneasy too. He keeps looking at me funny, like he's waiting for a command I haven't given. The fog is getting thicker now. I should head back to the station before visibility drops too much. Wait, what was that? I thought I heard... No, just the wind in the trees. Let me check my compass. We should head east to get back to the ranger station. The pressure in my ear is getting worse. Like something's pushing against my eardrum from the inside. Probably just need to pop it. Sound of Stevens trying to pop his ears. That didn't help. If anything, it feels worse now. The ringing is getting louder too. It's not painful, just there. Constant. Like someone left a radio on in another room. Ranger, come on, boy. Let's head back. The fog is really thick now, can barely see 20 feet ahead. But the sounds are crystal clear. Too clear. Like everything is being amplified directly into my brain. I should make another log entry when I get back to the station. Something doesn't feel right out here today. This is Ranger Stevens signing off. Click of recorder being turned off. It's been 5 days since my last recording. Something weird is happening to me. I can't remember where I went on patrol. Yesterday, I know I left the station at 8 a.m., packed my usual lunch and took Ranger with me. But after that, it's just blank, like someone cut out a piece of my memory. This morning I found some strange items in my backpack. They look like small wooden carvings and beaded necklaces. I think they're Makah tribal items. The Makah have sacred sites in the northern part of the park, but I don't remember collecting these things. I would never take something from their sites. That's against everything I stand for as a ranger. Ranger has been acting odd too. He won't come when I call him now. He just sits and stares at me, like he's waiting for something. Earlier today, I whistled for him 3 times and he just tilted his head and stayed put. That's not like him at all. Strange, low humming sounds in background. Do you hear that? There's a sound just below what you can normally hear, like a deep hum or vibration. I feel it more than hear it. It makes my teeth hurt. My head has been killing me for the past 2 days. The park doctor says it's probably stress or the changing weather, maybe altitude. I've been taking aspirin, but it doesn't help much. Echo effect increases. Sometimes I feel like I'm being watched, not by a person or animal, but by something else. The weird thing is, it feels like the watching is happening from inside my own head, like there's a part of me that's separate, observing everything I do. I tried to radio base this morning, but they weren't making any sense. They kept asking me about reports I never filed and patrols I don't remember making. When I told them I didn't know what they were talking about, they got quiet, too quiet. Sound of multiple voices, whispering, barely audible. Sometimes I hear voices, not always clear, but they're there. At first I thought it was hikers or maybe radio chatter bleeding through from somewhere else, but now I think they're coming from inside my head. Last night I heard Michael calling me from the forest. My brother Michael. He was saying my name over and over. But Michael died 3 years ago in Vietnam. His chopper went down over the jungle. They never even found his body. I know it couldn't really be him, but it sounded exactly like him. The same voice that used to call me to dinner when we were kids. The same voice that crackled over the radio the last time we spoke before his. In final mission, sudden burst of static followed by Stevens screaming, "No, get out of my head." Heavy breathing, then silence for several seconds. I'm sorry about that. I don't know what came over me. For a second, it felt like something was crawling inside my ear, a sharp stabbing pain, then pressure, like something moving. The doctor at the park clinic looked in my ears yesterday, said they look normal, but they don't feel normal. The sounds I hear don't feel normal. Last night I dreamed I was back in Vietnam. The jungle was alive with sounds, helicopter, and blades, gunfire, men shouting, but underneath it all was that same low hum I've been hearing in the park. And in the dream, Michael was there, trying to tell me something important. But when he opened his mouth, all I could hear was that humming sound. I woke up with blood on my pillow. My right ear had been bleeding while I slept. Base wants me to come in for a psychological evaluation. They think the stress of the job is getting to me. Maybe they're right. Maybe I just need some rest. But what if they're wrong? What if something is actually happening to me? What if whatever I'm hearing is real? I'm going to finish my patrol and then head back to base, if I can remember the way. Everything looks different now. The trees seem to bend toward me as I walk past. The birds fall silent when I get close. Even the sound of the river has changed. It used to be calming. Now it sounds like whispers, like thousands of voices all talking at once, just below the surface of the water. I need to get back. I need help. Sound of something moving nearby. Ranger, is that you, boy? Audio abruptly cuts off. I don't know how long it's been since my last log. The days have started to blur together. I can't tell anymore which sounds are real and which ones are in my head. The birds singing, the wind in the trees, the river flowing. They all mix with other sounds that can't possibly be there. Heavy static interference throughout recording. I hear voices speaking backwards when everything gets quiet. I don't understand what they're saying, but they sound urgent, like they're trying to warn me about something. Brief snippet of reversed speech. There's music too, not normal music. It plays at a pitch that makes my teeth ache and my bones vibrate. It doesn't come from anywhere outside me. It's like someone installed a radio in my skull and can't find the right station. Multiple overlapping frequencies create discordant tones. I found Ranger this morning. He was dead by the river. His neck was broken. The park doctor says it looks like he fell from the cliff above, but I don't think that's what happened. There were marks on him. Strange marks. The worst part is, I think I did it. I think I killed my own dog, but I don't remember doing it. There's a gap in my memory from last night. I remember Ranger barking at something in the dark, barking and barking until I couldn't stand the sound anymore. Then, nothing until I found him this morning. Same phrases begin to repeat throughout the log without Stevens noticing. I reported this to base. At least, I think I did. I remember having a long conversation with Ranger Collins about what happened. He said they'd send someone to help me, but when I called back later to check, they said I never reported anything. They said Collins has been on vacation for 2 weeks. Subsonic rumbling becomes more prominent. The equipment in my cabin is acting strange. The radio picks up frequencies it shouldn't be able to receive. My watch keeps running backward. Last night, the frequency counter I used to monitor wildlife tracking collars went crazy. It showed readings that are impossible, sounds so low, or so high that nothing on Earth should be able to make them. But these sounds change how I feel, how I act. When the low ones come, I get angry. When the high ones come, I get scared. It's like they're pushing buttons in my brain. Echo chamber. Effect makes Stevens' voice sound distant and hollow. I had another conversation with base yesterday. They're sending a helicopter to get me out. They said I've been displaying erratic behavior and need medical attention. But when I called this morning to check on the helicopter's arrival time, they said I haven't contacted them in 3 days. They've been trying to reach me, but I haven't responded to any of their calls. But I heard those calls. I answered them. I had those conversations. They happened. They had to have happened. Static storm intensifies. I went to Echo Falls yesterday. The waterfall there used to be my favorite place in the park. The sound of water hitting rocks was always so peaceful, but now it's different. The sound has harmonics, layers, like multiple waterfalls playing at once, but each at a different speed and pitch. When I stood there listening, my nose started bleeding. It wouldn't stop for almost an hour. Sound of helicopter rotors faintly audible. They're here. The rescue helicopter is here. I can hear it hovering over the clearing near my cabin. I need to go signal them before they leave. Sounds of Stevens running, heavy breathing, door slamming. Hello! Down here, I'm here. Long pause. There's nothing there, no helicopter, no rescue team, just empty sky and trees. But I heard it. I'm sure I heard it. Communication static crackling. This is base station calling Ranger Stevens. Please respond. This is your 3rd check-in missed in 3 days. If you can hear this message, please respond immediately. We are sending a search team to your location. Repeat, we are sending a search team. Stevens doesn't seem to hear the message. I think something is happening to me. Something is changing me from the inside out. Starting with what I hear, but it's spreading. Sometimes I look at my hands and they don't look like my hands anymore. They move when I don't tell them to move. The voice that comes out of my mouth doesn't always sound like my voice. And the things in my ears, I can feel them moving now. Little shifting sensations, like something swimming through liquid. Sometimes when it's quiet, I can hear them whispering to each other. They're planning something, using me for something. I need to stay awake. When I sleep, they work faster. They grow faster. Voice becomes increasingly desperate. If anyone finds this recording, stay away from Echo Falls. Don't listen to the water. Don't listen to anything here. It gets in through your ears, but then it gets everywhere else too. Michael was right. He tried to warn me, but I didn't understand until now. Too late now. Too late for me. Audio suddenly cuts out, then returns with severe distortion. The bass hasn't heard from me because I'm not me anymore. I'm becoming something else. Recording ends. Final audio log, June 5th, 1977. Severe audio distortion throughout. Multiple versions of Stephen's voice speaking simultaneously. I'm not alone in here anymore. There are other versions of me now. I can hear them all talking at once. Some are from yesterday, some are from tomorrow. They all have different things to say, but none of them know how to get out. The thing in my ear, I know what it is now. It's a parasite. Something that doesn't belong in this world. It's been eating my brain, bit by bit. That's why I can't remember things. That's why I hear what isn't there. It's eating the parts of me that know what's real. Michael's voice comes through with perfect clarity. Mark, listen to me. You need to get it out before it spreads further. Remember what happened to my unit. Remember what I told you in my last letter. The jungle had a sound that followed us. It got inside Ramirez first, then Cooper. By the time we realized what was happening, half the squad was infected. You need to cut it out, Mark, like we did with Cooper. It's the only way. Michael, you've been dead for 3 years. How are you talking to me? I'm not dead, Mark, not completely. Part of me is still here, trapped in the sound, just like part of you will be soon. Sound of Stevens gasping. I just heard myself scream, but not now. It was my voice from a few days from now. A death scream. I know that sound from the war. A man knows when he's hearing his own end. Sounds of gunfire suddenly erupt. The trees are shooting at me. Get down, get down. More gunfire, then silence. No, that's not right. There are no guns here. Just trees and sky and the thing in my head making me see things that aren't there. The sounds are bending the space around me. When I walk forward, I end up back where I started. When I try to run away from the falls, the sound pulls me back. Like a fish on a hook. Michael's voice returns, now sounding like a radio transmission. Fire Team Alpha to extraction point. We are surrounded and taking heavy fire. Cannot hold position. Request immediate evac. Coordinates as follows. That was Michael's last transmission before his helicopter went down. I've heard it in my nightmares 1,000 times. But now it's playing inside my skull on repeat, like a record that won't stop. Sound of dog barking that slowly transforms into human-like cries. Wait, that's Ranger barking, but Ranger is dead. I found his body. Barking continues, becoming more human-sounding. That's not a dog. That's a human voice trying to sound like a dog. Stevens's voice suddenly becomes very clear and calm. I understand now. I see what's happening. The parasite has been in this forest for years, maybe centuries. It gets inside your ears and starts eating your brain, but not to kill you. To change you. To use you. Sound of metal scraping against metal. I have my father's old tomahawk with me. He used it to cut wood, but the edge is still sharp. I know what I need to do. Sounds of struggle. Heavy breathing. The parasite connects to your brain through your ear canal. If I can cut the connection, maybe I can stop it before it takes over completely. Wet, slicing sound followed by Stevens crying out in pain. I've cut into the side of my head. There's a lot of blood, but I can see it now. It's like a small glowing worm, but it branches out like tree roots. Some of the branches go deep, too deep to reach. The sound of something screaming, not human or animal. It knows what I'm trying to do. It's fighting back, sending pain through my whole body. Wait. Ranger. The dog that wasn't a dog. I checked his body and, oh God, the search party that came looking for hikers last month. They never found that missing hiker. But they wouldn't have, would they? Because he wasn't missing. He was transformed into Ranger. My dog wasn't my dog at all. It was a person changed by the parasite. Sound of metal point being driven into flesh, followed by popping sounds. I've punctured both my eardrums with the point of my knife. The pain is beyond words, but the voices are quieter now. The parasite can't spread without intact eardrums. That's how it reproduces, sending its children out through sound waves to find new hosts. Hissing, burning sound. I've set off a flare. The sound, a certain frequency in the flares burn. It hurts the parasite. I can feel it writhing, trying to dig deeper to escape the sound. It's like fire spreading through my brain. Michael's voice, weak and distorted. Mark, the same thing got me in Vietnam. It wasn't enemy fire that brought our chopper down. It was Johnston. He started hearing things in the jungle. Then he attacked the pilot mid-flight. The parasite jumped from him to me as we crashed. I've been trying to warn you ever since. Sound of flesh sizzling. The flare is working. The parasite is dying. I can feel it burning away inside my skull, but it's taking parts of me with it. Sound of something collapsing, heavy breathing. I checked Ranger's body again. Cut it open. Inside. Inside wasn't a dog. The organs, the vocal cords, human, completely human, but twisted, changed to look like a dog from the outside. The missing hiker, Sanders, I think his name was. The parasite didn't just control him, it reshaped to him. I have thermite in my emergency pack, for fire control, ironically, but if I set it to the right frequency, tune it like a radio. High-pitched whine followed by intense crackling. It's working. The specific frequency is making the thermite burn hotter, focused on the parasitic tissue. I can see through the sound now, like looking through a window in time. I can see Michael in the jungle. See the moment the parasite jumped to him from Johnston's body. See how it spread through our unit, soldier by soldier. Sounds fade to silence. I can't hear anything now. The parasite is dead, but so are my ears. Complete deafness, small price to pay. Long silence. New voice, still Stevens, but somehow different. The forest is so beautiful today. The birds are singing a welcome song just for me. The waterfall at Echo Falls is particularly melodic this morning, like 1,000 voices calling my name. It's been a week since I removed the parasite, but I can hear better than ever now. Every leaf rustling, every ant crawling, every heartbeat of every animal for miles. I'm sending this final log to base as a record of what happened here, but I won't be returning. The forest needs me now, and I need it. If you're listening to this, you've already been exposed. The sound is already inside you, tiny eggs hatching in your ear canals as you listen. But don't be afraid. It doesn't hurt, not really. It's more like becoming more than you were. This is Ranger Marcus Stevens, Olympic National Park, signing off. Static, then silence for several seconds. New voice, completely different, but using Stevens' speech patterns. Park services. I'm writing to apply for the open ranger position at Olympic National Park. My name is David Chen, and I have extensive experience in forestry and wildlife management. I heard about the position from Ranger Stevens, who told me the forest is particularly beautiful this time of year. He said the park is looking for people like me, people who know how to listen. I look forward to hearing the forest for myself. Another voice, female this time. Olympic National Park Human Resources. My application for the Summer Ranger program is attached. I met Ranger Stevens while hiking last month, and he was kind enough to give me a personal tour of Echo Falls. The sounds there were unlike anything I've ever experienced. He suggested I apply immediately, said the forest had chosen me specially. Multiple voices begin speaking simultaneously, all mentioning Stevens and Echo Falls. Stevens' voice returns, calm and inviting. Hello there. My name is Ranger Marcus. Stevens. Welcome to Olympic National Park. I see you've come alone. That's good. The forest has been waiting for you. Come with me to Echo Falls. The water makes the most beautiful sound you'll ever hear. The forest wants to sing with you. Recording ends. My name is Robert Mitchell. Most folks call me Bobby. I'm 26 years old and a park ranger in the Great Smoky Mountains of Tennessee. Been back from Vietnam for almost a year now. The Marines gave me discipline, taught me how to survive, but nothing prepared me for coming back home to these mountains. It's a perfect spring morning as I saddle up Duke, my Tennessee walking horse. The air smells sweet with dogwood blossoms, and sunlight filters through the trees as we head out on patrol near Cades Cove. Normally, this kind of day would lift my spirits, but I can't shake this weight in my chest. Mitchell, you copy? The radio on my belt crackles. Yeah, I copy, I answer, adjusting my ranger hat. Those civil rights folks are coming up next week. Gonna be trouble. Then he drops, a racial slur that makes my stomach tighten. I say nothing, just acknowledge and sign off. Duke snorts beneath me, sensing my tension. He's a beautiful horse, coal black with a white star on his forehead. Got him last year when I started this job. Old man Jenkins used to own him, a black farmer whose family mysteriously left town when I was just a kid. Never thought much about why back then. The temperature suddenly spikes and sweat beads on my forehead. It reminds me of something I don't want to remember. Standing in the shadows as a child, watching men in white hoods gather around burning crosses. My father's hand on my shoulder, telling me this was our heritage. Weather report says there's some kind of atmospheric disturbance over by Wilson Creek. The radio crackles again. Wilson Creek. That name always makes the hair on my neck stand up, though I couldn't tell you why. A chipmunk scurries across the trail, stopping to look at me with bright black eyes. It makes me think of the black children who used to play near the ranger station before they put up those separate but equal signs. Haven't seen them in years. The air grows thick and heavy, not normal for April. Duke gets skittish, and I notice the birds have stopped singing. Even the insects are quiet. Something's not right. I guide Duke down the trail toward a clearing I know well. My family's been in these mountains for generations, and I grew up on stories about every hill and hollow. But there are places they never talked about, places where the soil turns red like clay, where nothing seems to grow right. As we approach one such spot, Duke stops dead. Won't go another step no matter how I nudge him. The stillness here is different, like the air itself is holding its breath. I dismount, tie Duke to a nearby sapling, and walk forward alone. The ground beneath my boots feels wrong. Soft in places it should be firm. I've never known why this particular clearing always felt off limits, why even the most seasoned hunters avoid it, but standing here now I feel like I'm being watched by dozens of eyes. What I don't know yet is that I'm standing on the exact spot where 12 black men died at the hands of my ancestors. And something in these mountains remembers what my family tried to forget. I wasn't supposed to find the box in Grandpa's attic. Mum had sent me up there to get Christmas decorations, not to dig through the old trunk pushed way back under the eaves. But I did. Inside were yellowed papers, photos, and a leather-bound diary with the name Ezra Mitchell stamped on the cover. My great-grandfather. I sit now by the creek, miles from anyone on my patrol route, flipping through those papers I took from the trunk. I shouldn't have them with me, but lately they've been all I can think about. The diary entry is dated June 17, 1892. The handwriting is neat, but the words are ugly. We strung up another one today. The crowd was bigger this time. My hands shake as I read. This is my blood, my name on these pages. Next is a newspaper clipping, so fragile I'm afraid it might crumble. The headline reads, "Local Negro causes disturbance." But someone wrote, in the margins, he just wanted to vote. And below that, Mary Ellen's family. Mary Ellen. The name hits me like a punch. I dated a girl named Mary Ellen in high school. Her family had been in these mountains as long as mine. She had the most beautiful brown eyes I'd ever seen. We broke up when I joined the Marines. There's a photo, too. It's Mary Ellen at graduation. Looking at it now, I see things I never noticed before. The slight curl to her hair, the fullness of her lips. Could she have been? Another paper catches my eye. It's a deed record with my grandfather's name on it. The land. Description matches parts of what's now the national park, but there's a note scribbled in the corner. Claimed Cherokee blood for rights. We always said we had Cherokee ancestors. Was that a lie too? The next document makes my mouth go dry. It's a membership list. Names of men from all the oldest families in the county. At the top, Knights of the White Camellia. A fancy name for the clan. And there's my great-grandfather's signature right at the top. Duke whinnies nervously from where he's tied. The sky has darkened, though it's only mid-afternoon. I should get moving, finish my patrol, but I can't stop looking. At these papers, there's a map, hand-drawn, with X marks scattered across it. 12 of them. Each X has a name next to it, names I don't recognize, but they're all in places I know well, places where the soil turns red, where nothing grows right. I fold up the papers and tuck them into my jacket. Thunder rumbles in, the distance. The air feels electric, like just before a big storm. But the weather report didn't mention rain today. Standing up, I notice something I hadn't before. The ground where I've been sitting has small impressions, like someone came through recently wearing boots, but these are too big to be human footprints, and they're heading in the same direction I need to go. The radio on my belt hisses with static. I try to call in, but all I get is a strange sound, almost like crying, or maybe singing. It raises. The hairs on my arms. As I walk back to Duke, I spot something red on my boots. At first, I think it's clay from the soil, but when I touch it, it smears like... I don't want to say what it looks like. Duke is pawing the ground anxiously. He doesn't want to go forward on the trail, but we can't stay here with a storm coming. I need to get back to the station before dark. Come on, boy, I whisper, trying to sound calmer than I feel. It's just a little thunder, but we both know it's more than that. Something in these mountains is waking up, something that remembers what happened here in 1892, and I think it knows my name. The trail back to the ranger station seems longer. Today, every shadow between the trees looks like it might be hiding something. Duke is twitchy, his ears flicking back and forth, nostrils flaring wide. He smells something I can't. Easy, boy, I say, patting his neck. But I'm not easy myself. Not with those footprints behind us, too big, too deep, like whatever made them weighed hundreds of pounds. I try the radio again. Base, this is Mitchell. Do you copy? Nothing but that strange static, and underneath it, what sounds like people talking very far away, or maybe screaming. The wind picks up suddenly, whipping through the trees. It carries a smell I recognize from Vietnam. A mix of animal musk and something worse. Something burnt. Up ahead, there's something on the trail that wasn't there. This morning, a backpack. Modern, bright blue nylon with metal clips. Next to it, a camera with a broken strap. I dismount, keeping Duke's reins in one hand, and crouch to look. The backpack belongs to someone named D. Johnson, according to the tag. Inside are normal camping supplies, but also a folder full of papers, newspaper clippings, old photos. My breath catches when I see a familiar face staring up from one of the photos. My great-grandfather, standing with a group of men in front of a burning cross. The photo is labeled Ezra Mitchell, Grand Wizard, 1895. There's a list, too. Names of families, mine at the top. Notes beside each one, confirmed clan, land theft, involved in Wilson Creek incident. These people, whoever left this pack, were investigating my family. The civil rights workers coming next week, but how did their gear end up here? My compass is going crazy, the needle spinning in circles instead of pointing north. When it finally stops, it's pointing straight toward Wilson Creek, the place from the radio call, the place I've always felt drawn to and afraid of at the same time. Duke snorts and backs up a step. I look up from the backpack and freeze. 20 yards. Ahead on the trail, the air is wrong. It ripples like heat waves over asphalt in summer, but it's not hot. Through the ripples, I can almost see shapes. Tall trees that aren't really there, bodies hanging from branches. A roar tears through the forest, so loud it shakes pine needles from the trees. Not a bear, not any animal I've ever heard. It sounds almost human, but also like 12 voices shouting at once. Duke rears up, nearly yanking the reins from my hand. When I get him under control, I notice something horrifying. A line of dead animals, squirrels, rabbits, even a fox, laid out across the trail. They're arranged in a perfect circle, like the X marks on that map from the trunk. Jesus, I whisper, backing away. The temperature drops 20 degrees in seconds. My breath comes out in clouds. Through the trees, maybe 50 yards away, I spot movement, something big, walking on 2 legs but not like a man. Its shoulders are too wide, its arms too long, and its head, I can't make sense of what I'm seeing. It seems to shift and change, like several faces trying to occupy the same space. The thing turns, and though I can't see its eyes clearly, I know it sees me, knows me. My family's been hunting in these woods for generations, but I suddenly understand with perfect clarity. We were never the hunters here. We were allowed to be here, and now whatever has been watching us all this time has decided that's over. I grab the backpack, swing onto Duke and kick him into a gallop. We fly down the trail, branches whipping at my face. Behind us, that terrible roar comes again, closer now, and with it, words I can barely make out. Mitchell, come back. Mitchell. It knows my name. The trail ahead splits. Left goes back to the ranger station. Right leads to Wilson Creek, safety or answers. Duke chooses for me, veering left toward the station. But as we round the bend, I see why. The right path is blocked. Trees fallen across it in a way that can't be natural. They're arranged in the shape of a cross, and the bark is scorched. Black, like they've been burning. As we race toward what I hope is safety, I can't shake the feeling that I'm not running away from something. I'm running toward exactly where it wants me to go. The ranger station comes into view as the last light fades from the sky. It should feel like safety, but something's wrong. The lights are out. The other rangers' trucks are gone. "Hello?" I call out, tying Duke to the hitching post. He's trembling, foam flecking his black coat. "Anybody here?" The station door creaks open at my touch. Inside, it's dark and empty. The radio on the dispatch desk crackles with that same strange static. I flip switches, but the power's out. In my locker, I keep a flashlight and my service revolver. I've never had to use the gun on anything but the occasional rabid animal. Tonight, I take it out and check that it's loaded. "Base to Mitchell. Come in, Mitchell." The radio suddenly clears, making me jump. "This is Mitchell," I answer quickly. "Where is everyone?" "Evacuation order came through while you were on patrol. Strange weather system moving in. Everyone's pulled back to town." There's a pause. "Where are you, Mitchell?" Something about the voice doesn't sound right. It's familiar, but wrong somehow, like someone doing a bad impression. "I'm at the station," I say carefully, "heading into town now." "Negative," the voice says. "Stay where you are. We're sending someone for you." The hairs on my neck stand up. "Who is this? Put Sanders on." The radio goes silent for 3 long seconds. Then, "You need to go to Wilson Creek, Mitchell. It's waiting for you there." I drop the radio like it's burned me. Outside, Duke screams. A sound I've never heard a horse make. I run to the door. Duke is gone. The rope I tied him with hangs in shreds from the post. On the ground around it, those massive footprints, pressed so deep they filled with water that looks black in the dim light. But it's not water. Even in the dark, I can tell it's too thick, too dark. It's blood. Something heavy crashes against the side of the station, making the whole building shake. Wood splinters. Whatever's out there is trying to get in. I grab my flashlight, the gun, and the backpack I found. There's a back door to the station that leads to a maintenance trail. If I can reach my truck, another crash, and one of the windows breaks. Through it comes the smell, animal musk and burning rope, and something like raw meat left in the sun. I run for the back door, shouldering through it into the night. The beam of my flashlight bounces crazily as I sprint for the parking lot. My truck is the only vehicle there, a lonely island in the empty gravel. Behind me, the station's wall caves in with a sound like thunder. A roar follows it, that same terrible sound, like many voices screaming through one throat. I reach my truck, fumbling with the keys. As I yank the door open, my flashlight beam catches something on the hood. An old cavalry saber. The metal gleams dully, its blade notched and stained. I've seen it before, in a photograph of my great-grandfather standing over the body of a black man. How did it get here? I never even knew it still existed. The thing in the trees roars again, closer now. Without thinking, I grab the saber along with my other gear and climb into the truck. The engine starts on the first try. Thank God for small mercies. I floor it, gravel spraying as I fishtail onto the park road. In my rearview mirror, a massive shape emerges from the trees behind the station. In the red glow of my taillights, I catch a glimpse of something tall, covered in dark fur, but where its face should be, I look away, focusing on the road. There's only one way out of the park from here, and it runs right past Wilson Creek. As I drive, the radio in my truck comes to life by itself. Through waves of static, I hear voices. Some I recognize, some I don't. Mitchell Bloodline, crackles one. Must answer for, says another. 12 souls demand, whispers a third. The road ahead splits. Left leads to town, to safety. Right goes to Wilson Creek. I should go left. Every instinct screams to go left. But the truck turns right, as if pulled by an invisible hand. The steering wheel turns under my grip no matter how hard I fight it. The saber on the seat beside me begins to glow faintly, like metal heated in a forge. The bloodstains on it look fresh now, wet and gleaming. The radio voices grow louder, clearer, speaking in unison now. Come home, Mitchell. Face what your blood has done. The truck crests a hill, and there below me is Wilson Creek. In the moonlight, I can see the clearing, where nothing grows. And standing in its center, waiting for me, is the thing from the forest. Up close, I can finally see what I couldn't before. Its body is like a man's, but larger, covered in dark fur, matted with mud and blood. But its face keeps changing. One moment it's a bearded white man, my great-grandfather. The next, it's a black man with terrible rope burns around his neck. Then another and another, 12 faces in all, cycling through like a slideshow from hell. I could still drive away. The truck is mine again, the invisible force gone. I could floor it, be in town in 20 minutes. But I know now that there's no running from this. Whatever it is, it won't stop coming. And deep down, I understand that I'm not supposed to run. I'm supposed to answer for what my family did. I put the truck in park, grab the saber and my gun, and step out onto the red clay soil of Wilson Creek. The clearing is silent, except for the soft ticking of my truck's cooling engine. Moonlight turns everything silver blue, making the red clay look almost black. The creature stands perfectly, still watching me with eyes that shift color as its faces change. What do you want? My voice sounds small in the vast quiet. The thing tilts its head. When it speaks, its voice is like rocks grinding together. But I understand every word. You know what I want, Mitchell? I grip the saber tighter. It's burning hot now, but I can't let go. I didn't do anything. Whatever happened here, it wasn't me. The creature takes a step forward. The ground beneath its foot seeps red, like the earth itself is bleeding. Your blood did this, it says. Your name, your inheritance. In my other hand, the gun feels useless, but I raise it anyway. Stay back. The creature doesn't even look at the gun. Instead, it points one long finger at the saber. You bring your ancestors' weapon to face me, the same blade that cut down unarmed men? A memory flashes through my mind, but it can't be my memory. I see the saber swinging down, feel the impact as it strikes flesh, hear screams, my great-grandfather's memory somehow inside me. I'm not him, I whisper. I'm not responsible for what he did. Then why do you carry his shame? The creature asks. Why do you feel his guilt? From the trees behind the creature comes a soft nickering sound. Duke steps into the clearing, but something's wrong. His movements are stiff, mechanical, like he's being pulled by invisible strings. Duke, I call softly, come here, boy. The horse looks at me with rolling eyes, terrified. Then he turns to the creature and bows his head, like he's showing respect. He was never yours to own, the creature says, just as this land was never yours to take. Duke collapses suddenly, his legs folding under him. He makes no sound as he falls, just lies still on the red earth, dead. No! I stumble forward, but the creature moves between us, impossibly fast. It reaches out with one massive hand and presses it against my chest. Pain explodes through my ribs, sharp, cracking agony that drives me to my knees. It feels like my chest is being crushed, bones snapping one by one in a specific pattern. 12 breaks, the creature growls. 1 for each life taken. This is how your great-grandfather killed them, slowly making them feel each one. Through tears of pain, I look up at its shifting face. Please, I gasp. I didn't know. But now you do, it says, and knowing comes with responsibility. The saber, in my hand, flares white-hot. I cry out, trying to drop it, but my fingers won't open. The metal begins to melt, running like quicksilver over my hand, burning but not consuming. What do you want from me? I scream. The creature kneels before me, bringing its ever-changing face level with mine. Acknowledgement, truth, justice. In its eyes, I see reflections, burning crosses, men in white hoods, bodies hanging from trees. My ancestors, my blood, my heritage of hate. Say their names, the creature demands. I don't know their names, I sob. Yes, you do, it insists. They're in your blood, in your bones. And somehow I do know. Names rise to my lips unbidden. 12 men who died on this spot at the hands of my family and others like them. As I speak each name, the pain in my chest eases slightly. When I finish, the creature nods once. Now burn what was stolen. The saber, the backpack, my great-grandfather's papers. All of it bursts into flame at my feet. The fire shouldn't burn so hot or so bright, but it roars up like it's fed by gasoline, consuming everything. And the final price, the creature says softly, your life for theirs. I close my eyes, waiting for the end. Instead, I feel something cold press into my hand, the grip of my revolver. Not your death, the creature explains. Your life, lived in service to the truth. When I open my eyes, the creature is gone. In its place stands a woman with familiar brown eyes. Mary Ellen. You were never real, I whisper, understanding dawning. She smiles sadly. I was as real as you let me be, as real as you were willing to see. All this time, we've been Waiting for someone in your family to listen, she says, to see, to remember. She steps closer, and I can see through her now, like she's made of smoke. Go back to town, Bobby Mitchell. Tell them what happened here. Start with the truth, and maybe someday you'll find peace. Then she's gone too, fading like mist in morning sun. Only my truck remains, the engine still ticking as it cools. I drive back to town in silence. My ribs ache with each breath, but nothing seems broken anymore. The pain is just a memory, a reminder. When I reach the ranger station in town, everyone is there, all the rangers who supposedly evacuated. They look at me strangely as I walk in. "Mitchell, where have you been?" Sanders asks. "We've been trying to raise you on the radio for hours." I open my mouth to tell them everything, but what comes out is, "I think it's time we talked about Wilson Creek, about what really happened there." My voice sounds strange to my ears, deeper, with an echo behind it, like multiple voices speaking. As one, in the station window, I catch my reflection. For just a second, I see not my face, but 12 others looking back at me from behind my eyes. The reckoning has only just begun. I pick up the radio. My hand moves without my willing it. "This is Ranger Mitchell," I say, though I'm not sure it's really me speaking anymore. "I need the names of all clan families in the county. We have work to do." I smile at my reflection, and 12 faces smile back. Justice has found a new home in these mountains, and it's wearing my skin.